Welcome, sisters and brothers in arms. We honor those who follow the old, nearly forgotten code of honor. Our metal we wear proudly, like the scars we earn to keep our magnificent sovereignty. Our reverence to each other is only matched by our incorruptible allegiance to our morality and ideals. Warrior kings and queens sit blooded in thrones of shattered bones. Lives are but fragile drops of rain. We all fall down vehemently, yet we remain inevitable. For truth to victory, for honor infinitely, we uphold the code and embody it with a quality example. We are mighty. We are unwavering. We are inexorable.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the very first Gygaxgate episode. I have my good friend here, Ed Greenwood, the creator of Forgotten Realms. Thank you so much, everybody. And so we wanted to talk this evening. I'm not really very well prepared. We only had a few moments to elbow cough. Yeah, TSR Hobbies official. Thank you so much for coming by. We appreciate you. We wanted to talk this evening about some issues in our culture and society. We've seen many examples of it, and I'm led to believe that. Hey, glad to have you here. Thank you, Michael. We appreciate you. We honor tradition here, and that's the point of all of this, as well as we'd like to make people more aware of what's going on in our culture and the terrible things that are happening. There's terrible crimes that are happening against great creators, against people. I think that social politics are being used as a shield and a weapon for many different personal gains, for power even. And some people are latching onto it just as a bully engine and something that's very hard to approach. Something very hard to approach socially. We believe in fairness, of course, and that all people have access to entertainment. That's just something that anybody who's sane can understand. But we have the situation at hand. Let's just dive right into it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. This upset me. I saw this quite a few days ago, and then I saw the thread today for it's Tim Kask on Facebook, and he's had some trouble. There've been some fans that have went after him. And here, let's just go ahead and take a look at it here. I've got my screen shared. Okay, I hope you guys can see it. Okay. This is a post here that I made today on Facebook, and I'm going to go ahead and read this post by Tim Kask. This was made roughly just less than a week ago. He addresses his fans on Facebook and says, so a new Ed, meaning edition, is coming in 2024. Good for them. I hope it sells jillions of copies. D&D lives on, evolving. I am delighted. I won't be buying or playing running it. Let me explain myself. I was a midwife to OD&D as well as first edition AD&D. That is what I still play, and I have felt no need to update ever. I like what I have and am doing. Look what the baby has grown into. Look at how many people are playing. Others have felt differently, and Wizards of the Coast has fed the demand, not always well. But it is still that baby I helped birth. Now we are being accused of ridiculous charges. Fill in the blank race represents fill in the blank in a demeaning fashion. Fill in the blank is really fill in the blank, and so on. None of this is true. I hated literature classes that nitpick books for symbolism. How can we know that a certain author was hiding stuff in the writing that we were really blank? Now, the Bang Pack is attributing stuff in the light of 50 years of societal changes that distorts the truth. We simply mirrored the zeitgeist of the current fantasy market and past fantasy literature archives. This is a point I want to just stop at for a second. And when he's talking about the zeitgeist of current fantasy market, he's talking about when Dungeons and Dragons was created, mid 70s and the early 80s. Ed, do you have something to say about the times? Like at those times, what fantasy was and what market you guys were creating for?
Oh, geez. Okay. At that time, fantasy was not mainstream. Hollywood had, you know, there was there were horror movies, Vincent Price and less classy, but it wasn't mainstream at all. This is before Star Wars. This is before Tolkien movies. This is before acceptance of it. And in much of the North American culture, uh, there were people who were concerned that Dungeons and Dragons and role playing in general were satanic or witchcraft
Yeah,
because
they
there was
call it
magic.
satanic panic.
Yeah, exactly. The satanic panic. And um, there are many older gamers who had their game books confiscated by parents and sometimes burned. They were books.
That's
Um,
incredible.
but it
Now,
was a
you're talking about burning books. Now, I mean, obviously, like we're all very aware of a cultural situation where this has happened. It was used to establish control over culture of a people, to burn their literature or to destroy or take things away from
Mhm.
away from any individual, essentially taking away creative expression from other people that's used to inspire people, and these things being taken away, um, any sect of it, any version of it, even if it's just taken away virtually or symbolically online. um, I think that taking away a piece of our culture that some people are inspired by because you feel that something is more correct is definitely incorrect. I think that all should exist, but not at the expense of any other. But go ahead, they were burning their books, you said. The Satanic Panic, where
And there were things that TSR, the publisher of the game, self-censored. In my particular case, I had lots of spells that I wrote and sent into them from the realms early on, and everything was censored out of them that was bodily fluids, blood, pus, mucus, anything like that you
so all
used
the
as a
fun stuff.
yeah, as you use a material component for a spell. Takes 2 drops of the caster's blood. Wham! That went right out of my stuff because, because they didn't want some little kid somewhere in the United States hurting themselves. Oh, I need a couple drops of my blood. Ah, they didn't
Yeah,
want that. And Jim Ward used to talk about um, avoiding the wrath of angry mothers from heck, and in some cases that meant our products won't be carried in the Bible Belt if it has these things in it. So let's not have these things in it. And that is, a marketing decision of the sort that's made by companies everywhere. You don't
that's
want to
right.
put out something unpopular. But
That's right. Those were the times. That's right. I mean,
yeah, it
people
was
were
a
less
different time.
accepting of
Yeah.
fantasy and
And when you
yes.
look at people like me and you say, oh, old white guy with a beard and he's fat and everything, guess what? A lot of the guys who played war games, sand tables, with slide rules and with burst circles made from coat hangers that we bent, and with tape measures to figure out how far the Napoleonic troops could charge, were guys.
That's right.
That's what we were born as. We had no choice about it. Um, and it is incorrect to say there were never any women in the hobby, but the people publishing stuff for the hobby thought they were publishing for fellow gamers, and they probably envisioned them as manly guys who were buying stuff like this. But I don't think it went beyond that. My original D&D gaming group, like many other D&D games, like school, was half female and half male from the beginning. We're talking like 1978 that we were playing regularly.
There's like an echo in the mic. Is that your end or my end? Do you hear it?
I can't hear anything now.
Okay, it's better now. It might be something with the mic.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, it was a different time. And I think everybody always has to remember that it is a mistake to judge people in the past and their views, their worldview, their philosophy, their religion by today's standards. There's almost a built-in
Absolutely.
yeah, there's a built-in arrogance, the unconscious arrogance that progress has always happened, so we are always better or smarter than people in the past. And that's not always true. We may be
I
different,
don't think so, and I think
but
it's
it's not
definitely
always.
wrong to, like the core of this issue that we're talking about, where you said we're guys. That's exactly it. We're guys, and we're allowed to be guys. Everybody's allowed to be what they want, but let us be guys. Let us be men. Let us be the men that we want to be. Why is that all of a sudden a societal taboo to be a male and to like fantasy and the and beautiful female form and artwork? I had Meredith Finch on my show, and her husband came on and looked at some artwork. I'm a big fan of him. David Finch, a staff artist for DC, and his wife is a wonderful writer. She's done Wonder Woman, and she did Xena, Warrior Princess, and Conan, and she did independent works, the Book of Ruth, and as well as Rose at Image. Wonderful, and we talked about that subject about because feminism had made a strong case, and there was a lot of social politics. And I wanted to ask her. I read her work, and she's a wonderful writer. And she said that it's about artistic expression, and there's nothing wrong with the female form, and she wants to make beautiful art and expression, and she's not hung up on those kind of things that. Um, and so I thought that was a beautiful statement from a wonderful family of professionals. These are very talented people, but I think she nailed it. I think she had it right where, you know, you can't have one at the expense of the other. It doesn't, like, a social opinion doesn't override all of society. And I think we have a problem where, like, the squeaky wheel tends to get the grease. The people who are the most vocal and the most angry, their voice tends to be a lot louder than people who are content and people who are not angry, who are okay with everybody existing and coexisting. Um,
Oh, sure.
it's not everybody's fault. You know what I mean? That if someone had a bad social experience because of who they are or what they choose to be, I mean, these are terrible things that happen in society, but I don't think that it warrants erasing a man's entire life accomplishment. People like yourself, people like Tim Kask, who created Dragon Magazine, people like James Ward, who wrote many TSR novels and actually carried artwork to rooms by hand before the internet, to help TSR Publishing bring this beautiful content to people. You guys built a gaming culture, and to erase those accomplishments, this is on subject. I'm coming around to your point, which is that to erase those accomplishments and hold you accountable by today's standards. But nobody could live by these social politics. Nobody could live by these standards. You know what I mean? I saw a writer who's a writer for Marvel, writing books for them over there, who published a book that essentially said that the white male writer is so prominent that it's a cliche. And so coming up, how is that my fault that there was a however many number of white heterosexual male writers are in the market? What about my expressive individuality? Is that even, like, who I am and how I express myself makes me different? It's not what my skin color is or how many of people who are in the industry who have my skin color. That has nothing to do with it. These people are very loud about these things, and they notice these things. And then we have attacks like what's happened with Tim Cass, which is a tragedy. Okay, so you were saying you were talking about the past and it being a different time. You were talking about the publishing at TSR at that time. There was the satanic panic. We touched that subject, and then we come into social politics today after about 5 editions of Dungeons and Dragons, and we see what these corporations. The company has exchanged hands a few times. how do you feel today? How do you feel for publishing? Like, what do you think about the direction of publishing and how it's going, and how healthy creative expression can be in this environment?
Well, it, publishing and communications and the world we live in today with social media is a two-edged sword. Because in the past, the nature of publishing meant there were very few publishers who were had access to the widespread distribution. And everybody else, including Gary Gygax when he started TSR Hobbies, was publishing out of their basement. And they were collating things by laying individual pages out on a table or on the floor and walking around and having collating parties, where you put everything together in the right order and you stapled it. So there were gatekeepers built in. There were only small numbers of publishers who could get their stuff in front of a lot of people. And of course, nowadays with social media and with print on demand offered through Amazon and other places, anybody can reach the market. But the problem has flipped on its head in that now, when you publish a book, you're sort of like one person standing in a crowd at a popular sports event, or at a train station during rush hour, or in the middle of a riot, and you're holding up your book and yelling, here's my new book, in the same way that everybody else around you is holding up their book and yelling, here's my book too. And none of you can be heard over each other. So we just traded the problems. And there are some marvelous things about social media in that people who didn't get heard before and who didn't get to see themselves in print now have access to print.
And it's
And they can
easier than ever. You're right. Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
it's easier
there
than
was an
ever.
explosion with the the technology change. There was always publishing, but the thing is that it changed and became faster and more efficient, so that any layman can do it. You could set up print on demand. You could,
Yeah.
if you could make a PDF file, you could make a book. So
Yeah, and
and I
that's
talked with some
great.
guys. Yeah, I
That's
mean, it's
great
great.
because we all get heard now. I mean, in the old days, I would have to search hard for the secrets of trapping on a trap line, or hunting game, or finding wild edible mushrooms or something. I'd have to look at a book in a catalog and say, so is that person really an expert?
You giving away all your secrets, Ed? Meat and
Yeah,
mushrooms.
yeah, no,
That's how you guys
not
got it
that
done. All
sort.
right.
Not that sort. But nowadays, I can finally see some of the native elders around me. I live up in northern Canada, I can see some of them getting published, and by published, it might just be a YouTube video. It might not be a book, where they show you, here's what I do, and here's how I harvest them, and here's how I fry them in the pan with this. This works for me. And there's nothing to replace that direct connection with someone who you consider an expert. Now, you might be wrong, and they might be wrong, or somebody else may have a better way, but it's wonderful that we finally get to see them. And I don't want anything I say to be misconstrued as, oh, he doesn't want to hear from Native people, Black people, yellow people, red people, whatever. No, I want to hear from everybody. I'm
That's right.
surrounded by books. I've got hundreds of thousands of books in my house.
But we want to hear from all people. I
we
think
want to
that
hear from everybody. And it's
we
the
want to hear from all
story.
people, like who they are. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We want that. I want to get back to that part of society where it's where who you are is your first step forward, and not,
Yeah.
what I think is a lot of these social politics. I'm forming a theory, and I can't fully prove it because, like you said, the internet is just a complete shit show right now. But and it's very hard to when there's so many different people and so many different opinions and variables. But what I think is that a lot of these corporations are attempting to establish canon, like what we've seen with the estates for Bill Finger getting awarded credit for Batman, and the Ditko estate looking to get rights to characters at Marvel, like Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. And these companies have seen this time and time again, where creators are establish canon, even though they were working under work for hire for these corporations. These corporations surround themselves with this social politics because it's outrage, um, this outrage fad, where that gets a lot of attention online, and that then that's being utilized along with divisive social politics around themselves, surrounding it. It's a hard subject to approach right now, you know, because of things that we see, like what happened with Tim Kask and other people who've been canceled by these people, these woke mobs that want to drive it into everybody's head that there needs to be some kind of special um, needs to be some kind of precursor to every human being meeting another human being, and that we need to treat people by how they're first by what their sexual orientation is, or their race, whether they're minority, and these things need to be considered first when we meet a person before we act and decide who they are. And I think that's wrong. I think we need to get, obviously all people should be appreciated and respect all people, but not at the, like I said, not at the cost of another human being. Like, you don't have to destroy another human being so that one human being can feel like they're respected. I don't think we need to get to that point, and it's causing some terrible problems in culture. It's affecting our entertainment. It's absolutely terrible. We've seen it in all sects of entertainment. We've seen it with Dave Chappelle recently, had a show about it. Unfortunately, one of his colleagues, I believe, from what I heard from the rumor, I believe, committed suicide. One of his colleagues was attacked by a Twitter, or social media mob that had taken exception to her humor, and these were jokes. And they felt like she crossed the line, and they hammered her until it got to the point where she'd actually committed suicide from what these people were doing to her. And I don't think that that's the kind of reaction that we should be looking for. Obviously, I mean, I don't know how these people reacted to this, but when there's a death by a human being, that's a profound thing. When it gets to that point where people's lives can be destroyed through social media, people's careers can be canceled. All of these things, we've seen it happen many times, and now it seems like they've got their sights on the original creators of Dungeons and Dragons, Tim Kask, and people like yourself. Where I'll continue on so we can get into it. I just want to stop there for a minute and talk with you, Ed, on that subject. But Tim Kask goes on to say, let's see where we left off. Fantasy Literature Archives. Okay, that's where we left off. I make no apologies as I don't feel that my contributions to the creation of AD&D had any such hidden meanings that are now attributed to us by the woke crowd. And what he's talking about here is that the original creators of Dungeons and Dragons and people who contributed to it are being labeled as sexist because of how the fantasy art and the characters were portrayed. This is a marketing thing. This was targeted mostly towards young boys. It was for everyone, but a lot of times young boys were the ones who were buying this and playing Dungeons and Dragons. This wasn't to exclude females or any other. Obviously, like, it was printed in 55 different languages by Gary Gygax. He wanted everybody to share in it and use their imaginations together. This label that's being painted on it, and you guys, is incorrect, because that was not the case. It's just the times were different, and it wasn't something that needed to be marketed or sold. There wasn't even the internet didn't even exist then. Had their own sensibilities, so there was no need to make people feel more accepted. You would go to the bookstore and you would buy a copy of Dungeons and Dragons First Edition, and you would play with your friends, and it didn't matter who you are. Anybody could go and pick that book up off the shelf and play it, and it wasn't geared towards any person. There was a diversity within the book naturally on its own with the different races and characters, and it was stated many times. I've read these books just not even playing the game. I've just sat up at night reading them just because I love the insight of the writers that were creating these worlds. Some of that insight is, this is a guideline, this book. You take these rules and then you make your own game. You feel free to break the rules and go outside of them and go where your imagination wants you to go. Anything that you feel or anything that you're inspired by, share that with your friends and game it and play it. And I always love that. And that was reiterated many times throughout the publications. Over the many editions, this was a theme. Just from day one, it was always about using your imagination and making it what you want it to be. So I think it's unnecessary to go to this extent where we have to pander to people who feel like they're excluded, because nobody was ever excluded from this game. It's just one of those outrage things, and people use it as a badge.
People who couldn't find it.
Well, people couldn't find it, right? But if you could get a hold
like
of a
me, couldn't afford, and for me it was comics. Back then, comics were 12 cents each. But I couldn't afford all the comics I wanted every month because my allowance was 25 cents a week. That's 2 comics.
That's right. My dad said he used to go and buy, he'd go to the store and buy 2 comics and a penny candy.
Yep.
He'd go with a quarter. Yep. Buy 2 comics and a penny candy. And we're kind of in a remote area, so a lot of the books that he wanted, he eventually collected the first 300 Marvel issues. Was his pride of his collection. But he would go to the store, and any issues they weren't getting that he was looking for, he would tell the guy, and the guy would order them. So it was
the power.
Just a small town thing, you know what I mean? He'd buy enough copies just for him because he knew that my dad was going to show up on his bike and buy him. You know what I mean? He'd bike 11 miles. Yeah, it was another sale. He'd bike 11 miles to get those books. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was another time. Everything was different.
It was.
But
yeah, it was.
I mean, for me, people say people will post something to me on social media and say, "You haven't answered. It's been 3 hours," and I think I may not see that for a week or 2 weeks because I don't live on social media. I actually have a day job. I have work to do. I don't spend time online. And I understand that more recent generations spend a lot more time online, and some of them even have these things called smartphones, where they can get text. Yeah, they can get notifications and stuff. I don't own a smartphone. I never have. I have a flip phone, and I own it for one thing. You can die in Canada if your car breaks down by the side of the road in winter, and you can't call for help. And my phone is used for. That's all it's used for. I mean, I used to go to Gen Con, and I used to drive the TSR and later Wizards people nuts because they'd be sending me these texts or trying to phone me and saying, "Hey, Ed, where are you in the building?" And I wouldn't get those messages till I went home to Canada days later because I was walking around meeting gamers, or I was wherever I was supposed to be, and all these people are all connected. And it was like, it's magic. It's like the electric light. And guess what?
Yeah, people are plugged right in. It's like John.
I have farmers around me who are still like that. We got running water and the electric light. We're cutting edge because the internet, that's something that kids in cities have to them, or that kids in cities talk about, or that somebody talks about on a TV show and they go, "I don't know what they're talking about. Do I need it for my cows?" And I mean, you think that's a joke? No, they're literally, that's their world. I'm sort of suspended in between because I'm old enough to remember when we didn't have. I remember the internet coming. I remember long distance phones coming.
Yeah.
I live in a house that did not have indoor plumbing when it was built. It was added later. You can tell.
I saw all of these happen myself. A lot of these things I don't remember not having the long distance thing, because we could call long distance when I was young. But I mean, I saw like cell phones were definitely not a thing. There was no internet when I was a kid, like for a lot of growing up, and so it was different. Obviously I embraced gaming and culture and these things. But I think this was meant to happen, and these were byproducts of the things that you guys created. Tabletop gaming became, once video gaming took hold, it was only natural that these things would be adapted into those things so people could enjoy them there and have their escapism in a digital form. It was popular.
It's amazing how many things we have today that they made up for Star Trek. And some kid who watched Star Trek episodes later became a scientist who said, what if we could make that? And
That's
then they
probably why you
made
kept your flip phone, Ed. And, you
it.
can be like Captain Kirk, right?
Yeah,
Beam
yeah.
me up, Scotty.
Beam me up, yeah.
With a smartphone, you can't do that. You don't get that nice flip effect. That was the whole coolness factor of Captain James T. Kirk, was that, he would beam me up and then he would flip the phone over, and he just
I'm
had
old
kind of
enough
this
to
suave
remember seeing William
um,
Shatner doing Shakespeare
poise.
on a
Oh,
stage in front of me. I was a
wow.
little kid. And by the way, I was a little kid wearing a suit and tie because I was out in public. So I was wearing a sports jacket, gray flannels, and a shirt and a tied tie because that's what one did in those days. Girls wore dresses, guys wore suits. That's
Well,
how
I
old
think
I
I
am.
would probably wear a tie to go see William Shatner speak. I mean, the guy's an absolute legend. So,
But,
so I
but
don't blame
anyway,
you there.
no, it was different times. And I think it's always a mistake to try and judge people in the past by what we do today. Like when you say, "Oh, the Romans, they were barbarians, blah blah. They all these gods, blah blah blah, and all these orgies and stuff." No, 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 no. Oh, and they kept slaves, blah 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 blah. You have to view them through the mores of the time. You can't apply your morals and worldview back centuries or even decades and judge people. If you do, it's a mistake, and you're losing all of the good things that you could appreciate about those people. It was a different time. It's not to say that the people were necessarily treated right, but I was raised after my mother died by a maiden aunt who'd lived through 2 world wars and a depression on a farm in
She's
a
probably a tough old bird, huh?
yeah. Oh yeah, and she had no running water, no electricity, and no vote until she was like in middle age. And she traveled from that farm to another country called the United States of America. And she worked in a department store as a haberdasher and sent money home to the farm, to the family. And she saw all these changes. She saw the 1800s. And to her, it was amazing the things that had happened. But because I grew up listening to stories of her, and from her viewpoint, I realized how much the world around us has changed and how some things were wonderful to her and some things were wicked to her.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
we have to be very careful when we judge other people. And frankly, unless you're judging someone to decide whether or not they're going to attack you or steal from you or trick you, I think it's a waste of time to judge other people most of the time. Get on with your own life. Take people as they come. The world would be a happier place if more of us did that.
yeah, and I think
Now,
if more people did that, of course, there would definitely be less of this. But there's definitely a necessity to at least make people aware of it, because it's gone in a complete opposite direction. It's a preemptive outrage, and you guys definitely didn't have this coming. You guys don't deserve to be placed in this category of being sexist males, because you were men and you love the way women look, and you guys had beautiful artwork in your books that depicted women in all of their glory. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what fantasy is, and there was a market for that. People
until
can't say that
about
you were.
6 years
That
ago, I
doesn't.
never got to choose any art at all for anything.
Hmm, that's a great
I'm
point.
what,
You were
62?
writing, so
I'm 62 years old now. I was in my mid 50s before I had any say over any art whatsoever.
that was handled by a completely different department, and that was probably also dictated by marketing and who was available for artwork and what they could get, what they could commission and cost. There are a lot of things that factored into those things, and people have to understand you guys were doing this pre-internet. So there was a
Mhm.
lot of legwork and a lot of phone calls made, and a lot of it was a completely different time. The conveniences of the internet were not there as far as publishing,
Sure.
and you guys did an amazing job. I think you guys did
And
an amazing job.
and
I
on
think it.
top of that, If you were poor and you went to a flea market or whatever, you might sometimes be buying books without covers, because in the sort of middle days of the way publishing work, they would strip the covers off and return them to the publisher, not the whole book. They just throw the rest of the book in the garbage. And some people would salvage that and sell it at a flea market. If you were a little kid and didn't know any better, or you didn't have enough money, you could build your library books that looked interesting. And when I say looked interesting, they had no covers at all. So they had no artwork at all. So you weren't going, "Oh, I'm going to buy this book with this hot naked babe on the cover," because you didn't get the cover. You never even saw the cover. You didn't have a chance to judge a book by its cover. You just had a bunch of pages glued together. And if there was something on those pages as you riffled through them about spaceships or about magic swords or about dragons, you took a closer look if you were me. And if you could afford it, you bought it and took it home. You may not discover there's a sex scene or romance in it until you were home and had been reading it for several days. So all this stuff, oh yeah, they were sexist. No, not at all.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The thought is absolutely ridiculous. But we're still subject to it. And the thing that bothers me about it is I may not be you. I'm sharing my screen again. I think we're going to go into just the very end of this and then call it. And I want to jump into the chat and share what people are talking about. But the thing is it affects our entertainment. It affects our entertainment to the point where our content is affected by it, and our talent, the talent that is chosen, is affected by it. And this hurts. This is not conducive to a creative environment. So I'm absolutely against it. But I think it's just become a fad and common practice. So these people are doing it, and they're using outrage to bring other people to this cause, which is essentially just trying to erase a person's life work. You guys have dedicated your life to this, and we appreciate you guys for it. Sane people appreciate you guys for it, would want to honor it. We would hope that Hasbro, even though they acquired the company and they're this humongous cold corporation, that they would want to honor this IP that was created by people who dedicated their lives to this medium and created a culture. We don't always get that. A lot of times we don't. It's not profitable for them to promote the original creators. It's more profitable for them to establish canon because they own the IP. And so that's why we get this. Apparently the mob. I wanted to jump back into this. The last paragraph was added actually in the last half week. I have the screenshot of the original, but this last paragraph was added here at the bottom because he was apparently, in addition to being mobbed, he was also corrected. He was mobbed to the point of correction. Get to see a little bit of Tim Kask's character here, as he says, it has been pointed out that I have used a term now considered a pejorative. So from now on, instead of referring to folks as woke with the double spots, like he said, a swear word, an awful fucking swear word, woke. You can't label them woke, because that's identifying. It's like putting sunlight in Dracula's eyes; they'll melt. You have to be politically correct in everything that you say, and bend over backwards when you do so. I will simply refer to them as new interpretationists, which are NIs, so that you don't have to say that incredibly long word, or hidden symbolism where none exist mob. The acronym HSWNEMS, which can you pronounce that, Ed? That acronym?
I can't even see it.
A single word. Oh, you can't?
No, to me that's a tiny little white page.
Oh, it is.
Computer screen. Yeah, I can't see it.
Let me see what we got. Here, let's try this. How's that? Can you see this? Let's see if we can get in here. Oh, here we go. Yeah. How about this word here?
Oh,
can you pronounce that?
Yeah,
for hidden.
His women's. I don't know.
His women's. Well, Tim Kask came up with this. So if you want to call them blah blah blahs, then you can feel free, because I guess
I
this
don't
is
know.
more for
I think the word mob is a nice short form.
I like mob
You
too.
see,
That's
from
not
my
bad.
point of view, it's like, um, I miss most of this outrage because I'm not online. But um, when he refers to hidden symbolism where none exists, uh, I do have to say one of the most offensive things as a writer, I find, and Tolkien felt the same way. He actually said, it would be really nice if people waited till I was dead before they told me what I meant when I wrote this or that.
Before they
Um,
told you you're irrelevant. Well,
yeah,
Jesus, I was talking with my good friends. I was talking with Pan. He's in the chat here. Thanks, Pan Boy, for coming by. And thank you all for being here. I appreciate you all. My boss, Jesse Hansen from CCS, is here too. Cornerstone Creative Studios in the house. Jesse Hansen, a former Marvel inker, also worked in comics for 20 years. He's a file wizard. He was published in Crack Magazine. And has done a lot of amazing hardcore indie guy, very talented. So yeah, so we're very happy to have all of you guys here. But I was talking with Pan and these guys about that very subject. I think that we need to remember that this is essentially a fight that we're in, even if you don't want this fight, because I think it's unacceptable and disrespectful for people to, before the eyes of the very creators who created this culture, to derail it and claim it as your own and tell them they were incorrect. This culture wouldn't be what it is if you guys didn't do the work that you did, and should at least honor tradition and legacy. These are things that you would never say because you're a very humble man, from what I know, Ed. And so, I think these things need to be said for you guys. I think that people need to be aware of this and to speak up and appreciate these creators. This is a resource that we have. These people are living legends. These are people that have dedicated their entire life to entertain you, and they were successful at it until somebody 40 years later says that apparently they weren't. You can't erase a man's life accomplishments because you feel that times are outdated. Times have changed many
yeah.
times over. Even if
You
you're
see,
incorrect, which
I don't want
these people are.
somebody. I don't want somebody to try and mind read me and say, when you wrote this in Dragon magazine 40 years ago, you meant this. Because first of all, everything I wrote got edited, so the words that you actually saw on the page might not be mine. And
Mm.
everything in a D&D thingy, it's work for hire. It can be rewritten by any number of editors. So that might not be the exact words that the guy whose name is on the cover or the gal whose name is on the cover actually wrote. Number one. And number two, some of us are still alive. Jim Ward, Tim Kask, me. Some of us are still alive. Ask us before we're dead, in the same way that I sat down and asked my grandpas everything I could and talked to them about what they did and when they were, because they were there when, World War II ended and stuff like that. I wanted to know about it from people who were there. The same way, ask us what we meant. Don't assume and don't say, oh, he was so blinded by his prejudices, he really meant this, when the person is alive to ask. Goodness knows people ask me stuff on Twitter every day for their Realms campaigns, and I happily answer when I can get around to it. But, if you want to know what I meant when I wrote something, ask me. I'll tell you.
Yeah,
It
I think you're easily approachable. I don't think you're that hard to approach where people would just need to put words
but
into your
ask me
mouth and speak
before
for
I'm
you.
dead. If more people had no, seriously, if more people
Right.
had done that with more creators, we might not get as many master's theses where they're saying Tolkien really meant this. But
Yeah,
we'd be
absolutely.
sure about a lot more because we'd have Tolkien's own words telling us, "Oh, I meant this when I wrote that."
But it's more fun for people to tell you
What?
what you were thinking.
Yeah, yeah.
It's much more fun for them just to put the words, force feed the words directly into your mouth, and then just broad brush you like a barn side with big red paint. You know, that's popular. This outrage culture is it's
Yeah.
gotten out of control. We saw it
Outrage
recently.
sells. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm going to go to the chat. I'm going to post some of these things. People are telling me to shut up and let you talk. That's great advice. I'm a word nerd. What can I say, man? You
Yeah.
know,
Me too.
yeah, we're hard to shut down,
Yeah.
both of us. So once we get going, you know, you get ahead of steam like a locomotive, right? That's what it is. And so, yeah, we have TSR Hobbies, elbow cough, elbow cough. Good to see you. We noticed you there. Don't worry about that. TSR Michael, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. Panboy, thank you so much. Hail to the pioneers and legends. We had TSR Hobbies checking in. And then we have Boss Man came in. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Well, howdy indeed. And here we go. We have Michael Yakko's absolutely perfect advice. Let Ed talk. That's a great piece of advice. Yeah, Tatsunami, yo, thank you so much for showing up. We appreciate you. Hail Ed.
I'm just a gamer, guys. I'm just like all of you. I just wouldn't go away.
You didn't know when to quit.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're glad. Shatner's new musical album is next level. Yes, I heard it on the show. I'm not sure if it's exactly to my taste, but you got to appreciate the guy.
Shatner and Joe Jackson, a couple albums ago, did a great. I think the album was called Has Been. They did a cover of a song, Shatner and Joe Jackson, that is absolutely brilliant. And
Yeah,
speaks
well,
to
no,
what
absolutely.
we're talking about now.
Convoy.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
Check keyword. It's lazy and disingenuous to put words in a creator's mouth. Absolutely. That's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
And these people are doing it because it fits their agenda. I think that whoever it is that has some kind of power or some kind of monetary gain, or a career, people can easily carve a career out if they don't have to compete with people who have already worked and established in the market. It's a lot easier to
And if
to
Tim
move in
Kask wants to stay with the style of D&D that suits him, by the same token, if you want to play D&D your way at your table, you have to respect that he wants to play D&D his way at his table. Sauce for the goose, sauce for the gander. You know.
I hear TSR Hobbies is Justin Lanassa. Okay, good. No, thank you so much for sharing that with everybody. We appreciate it, and we appreciate you guys. There's another subject that I wanted to get into as far as TSR and the official on Twitter. They've also had some issues with the very same type of mob. I'm not very sure if it's the same people, but they've been getting the same kind of backlash. And you know, this is where it may get kind of gamers don't die, we just fade away. Yeah, all we are is shadows and dust. You know what I mean? Go back to the earth.
Fading. Look at this belly. I'm fading. Oh, all my power and wickedness is gone.
But your beard is absolutely amazing.
Oh, what a world! What a world! Yes, well, yeah, that's for saving meals in for later.
Thanks a lot, Ed. I thought we agreed we were going to shave for this, but okay.
Oh, okay. Well, how do you know I haven't shaved some part of me?
All right, that's fair.
I shave these every morning. If I didn't, there'd be two eyes staring at you out of a duck blind.
What do we got here? Best to ignore, play as you wish. Yeah, it's absolutely best to ignore and play as you wish. I agree.
Yeah.
And that's why we say play as you wish. That's right.
Yeah.
That's how everybody feels already. That's why we want to bring awareness to this fake outrage. I think it's something that needs to be discussed as a society. And we want to put some content up and talk about it
and that was there in D&D from the very beginning. Some people play D&D sort of like a football team, huddles, and there'd be a party caller, and then they'd say to the dungeon master, okay, we're going to try and do this. The thief's going to try and do this, and it would be like a combat-oriented thing, a dungeon crawl. And other people wanted to ham act like they were all members of Monty Python and put on funny voices. And there's nothing wrong with either way or something in between. Play the way you want to play. You're having fun with friends playing a game.
Now,
And
this
it's
is
the most wonderful game in the world because you can change rules. Unlike Monopoly or unlike Steeplechase or unlike chess, well, you can change the rules in all of those games too, but there's far more likely to be arguments about it because people sort of understand how the game is, they expect the game to be. But if you're storytelling together in a group, the way you storytell has to depend on the group.
That's right. And we got Pandoy. Oh my God. Panboy Lando Soich Donlever, who says the manscaping secrets of D&D Legends. Absolutely. Yeah, we get a little peek
Exactly.
into the grooming of Ed Greenwood and how he keeps himself sexy all the time.
Underneath these clothes, I am naked.
Oh, yeah. See? So there you go. Leave something to the imagination like he has his entire career, right? Right? Is that not the theme? So we
Yeah.
got I've got another tweet that I want to show here from the Holy Goat. He remastered your voice work for the opener. If you guys didn't notice, the voice work was done by Ed Greenwood. Absolutely beautiful. He's not only a talented writer, he's also a very talented voice actor. I adapted my original opener for this segment that we're doing now, but all of the words are exactly the same, and I think that's something that's profound because I wrote it.
Space.
To
The
me,
final shed tear.
I think, well, I think not so much. Yeah, I don't think it's so much profound. I think that was wrong word. What I meant was I think it's honest. I think that's a better word. It's not as fancy of a word, but it's honest. It's who I am. I live by the old code. I am honest. I fight for what I believe in. These are qualities that are essentially what make up a legend or a hero. So I felt that they fit for this as well. I think they fit universally. That's what you're going to get from me. So I think it fit here as well. I wanted to go into this. Well, anyway, Holy Goat. He's the one who remastered your voice work. Ed, he did an amazing job. He went into it in the file and the music files and everything. He remastered the whole track. So the Holy Goat, he's a good dude. Let me go in here with the share. I want to bring this up here and show everybody this as another example of what we're talking about. This is quite a bit more extreme. Chappelle, Dave Chappelle, are you familiar with him as a comedian?
Mm-hmm.
So he had a series, obviously, and he just did this stand-up special. He's done a bunch of successful ones. But the Holy Goat posts apparently Dave Chappelle is a white supremacist. And the tweet that we have, and I have no idea who this person is. It's a verified account, Raquel Willis. I probably should have done a little research to find out who it is, so I had more insight. But I felt like the tweet itself just said so much. I really was not interested in going any further than this. I may at some time, but she says here, Dave Chappelle represents a segment of society, along with white supremacists, hoteps, incels, and others, that is anxious about the waning power of cis heteronormativity and the patriarchy. Wow.
Okay, so
Wowie.
just for all you listeners out there in vacuum land, when I read this tweet, I don't know what a hotep is. I don't know what an incel is. I don't know what the cis hetero whatever it is. I don't know those words.
You're
And
better
I'm
off
a
than the rest
writer.
of us.
I use words as a wordsmith every day of my life to earn my living, and I don't know what those terms are. I guess I'm not, oh, dare I say it, woke enough, or at least I'm not on the internet enough to know what. You see, to me, it's like I'm up in Canada watching a huge political battle being fought on the interwebs, mainly south of the border, and I don't even understand what the fighting is about because I don't know what all these terms are and why
It's
people
just
should
like you
get.
said. You're going to work, you come home, you spend time with your wife, you do your
Yeah.
writing and your work. You might go on the internet for a moment or two for your own personal time, but you come from a different time. We didn't have this much access to everybody's crazy thoughts. And
Mm-hmm.
so now we have the internet and we can see everybody's crazy. They wear it like a patch on their sleeve. And
Now I
so like
seem to remember that from what I've seen of Dave Chappelle that he's a black guy.
he is a black guy. He
So
absolutely is. From
I
what I understand of the definition of a black person, I mean, unless he's released publicly that he identifies as some other color, then I want to say that we can just assume that that we look at a person and it's, and that's
Yeah,
that.
and
We don't.
knowing the culture he grew up in, he's probably not going to be a white supremacist.
I don't think so. Although he played one in one of his skits. He was Tyrone Bigum's
But
black
but
white supremacist, but it was essentially a joke. I
yeah,
want to say that was not that's not his actual persona.
but
That was
here's
a
the
character
thing.
that he played.
When I went through school, we had to do Shakespeare in English class. I have
Hmm.
played Scottish kings. I have played Roman emperors. I have played Mistress Quickly, who's a wisecracking, filthy-minded midwife. And the fact that I had to play those things as an actor doesn't make me any of them.
What would be great is if we could get a. Yeah, no, I agree with you. What would be great is if we could get a definition of this is a word. I'm a word nerd, and I don't even know what this word means. This is incredible. What is this? Cis heteronormativity. Wow, it's something about normativity. That is something. It's
Cis,
going to take me a
hetero,
while.
norma. Okay, so
Read me off
something
them
is
letters.
normal, and hetero would be okay.
Oh, heteronormativity. So, cis. I know what cis white male means.
Oh, is that what
That's a
that means?
that's a
Okay.
new racial slur they've created for white men who are heterosexual, I believe.
Oh, okay. So
So we're too
that that
normal.
that that
Our mindset is wrong.
straight white guys are too prevalent, because
Too
that may be
prevalent.
true, but um,
But there's a disease. This looks like a disease name. I think you could look it up on rx.com. Like, I guess like we're sick, Ed, you and I, because we were born white and we're attracted to women. Um,
I
only.
I don't recall having much choice about what gender or skin color I was born.
I think so too.
By
I
the
think you're
time I
right.
was
You
old
might be
enough
onto
to look
something.
in a mirror, um, I was sort of stuck with it.
I think you're onto something there, Ed. I think you're onto something. I don't think we really have a lot of control, at least not at the moment. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I have never had the sort of money to change my looks, or for that matter, gender. You know. Um, and I
Okay.
certainly can't change my age. I'd love to be young and beautiful. I've never been beautiful, and it's been a long time since I've been young. Um, yeah, you see, the word woke to me is like the term science fiction. What is science fiction? You'll get 5 million different definitions, and the only one that really, in my mind, works is when I point at something and call it science fiction. I know it's science fiction. And that's unfortunately what the way with lots of definitions. And I think a lot of people end up fighting because they're talking past each other because they're using different definitions, and they get
People are
angry
just
with each
making
other.
up words. They
Yeah.
just want to be something. They're just throwing in a couple of X's and then calling it a something. I mean, I don't want to be insensitive to people who feel like there's something else, but I mean, when you're born, you learn words and what these are. And so, you know, uh, essentially people are discovering themselves, which is great. But at the same time, like, why is the way that I live incorrect? Um, just by proxy, just by you discovering something, I need to treat other people differently, and I need to learn how to engage a human being differently. I guess that I'm doing it wrong. I've been fair to all people my whole life, um,
But
and I
you
don't think
see,
I've ever done.
I think
Yeah,
there's also an instinctive thing in it. Each new generation rejects the values and the music of their parents. You know, they
yeah,
sort of
maybe
push
maybe we're
off
getting
against
old.
their, yeah, and they push off against their parents' generation, and then
But we're
20
not
or
talking
30
about
years later,
rebelling and
yeah,
stealing, stealing the Corvette to go to a Led Zeppelin concert. We're not talking about this kind of rebellion. We're talking about a group of people that want to erase a man's entire life's accomplishments and convince public that they are wrong and that they're essentially an evil against humanity, a sect of humanity, and then cancel their career and then maybe even just turn our culture into something completely different. It's like the Matrix. It's like they want. I mean, I don't understand, man. That the entire life has to change, and we have to eat slop in a bowl. Like, how do we have to? How the fuck do we have to live? How low do I have to hang my head? as a white man, so that everybody can feel comfortable.
Well, you
I
know
like all
something?
people. I don't care
If we
what
could
you
have the
are or who you want to
Matrix,
fuck.
I want all those agent, whatever his name was, the agent with the sunglasses. That was after Keanu Reeves' character all the time. I want, when there were 40 him, I
The
want those.
Morbi. Oh, the
Yeah,
Smiths.
yeah, because I want to send one to do my day job. I'm going to say one to do my banking, one to pay my bills, one to do my shopping, and then I can look after my wife. I'll have time. You
You
see,
know,
that's what I want. I want the benefits of these things.
that's
I don't
another
want them.
point.
I don't want the misunderstandings. I don't want the fighting.
You guys are all still actively working. That's another
Hmm.
thing. All the fellas that I tagged in my post, you had Greenwood working a day job and writing freelance as well to take care of everything. I know James Ward is still creating his own work and doing freelance work, and he has been for a while. And he's not in great condition. I think right now he's retirement. He started quite a bit before you said too,
Hmm.
even so. He's still working. Tim Kask, it's one of those things where the amount of work that you guys have done for this industry, if someone could just show the slightest little bit of appreciation and purchase your work. I know that your indie work, you're doing a lot of indie work. James is as well. And so we'd like to have you guys all follow Ed Greenwood on social media, James M. Ward as well, and Tim Kask. We'll get you guys some links as well throughout the week. I'll post on my social media as well, and we'll try to get everybody connected. But ultimately, this is something that we as fans need to support. It's something that we can do as an appreciation for these guys who have spent their entire lives just passionate about creation and created this gaming culture for us. I mean, I think they've made almost 24 video games from the work that you've done, haven't they? Where they have
Oh
Eye of the
gosh,
Beholder, they had
yes.
Neverwinter, they had was all from Forgotten Realms. There was Neverwinter, Neverwinter Nights. There's Eye of the Beholder. There was Baldur's Gate. There was a bunch of other ones. There's like 24 games they created from your work.
All the
And
SSI games, yeah. Secrets of
yeah,
the Silver Blades, all that stuff. Yeah.
yeah, they
Hmm.
created all that. It was all based on your work, and these companies all own all of it. His work for is essentially the same as Stan Lee. I think you've published more word count than Stan Lee. I think so. He's done quite a few issues, but the thing is in
Oh,
those
I don't
times
know.
they weren't. He wasn't writing. When he was writing scripts, he wasn't even writing the panel descriptions because Jack Kirby was doing the artwork first, and he was just filling it in.
Yeah, but
So
but Stan had his soapbox, and in the early days, Stan awarded the Nove prizes and answered all the letters. By the end, he didn't, of course. But
well,
so I
that's
mean,
true. If we
there's lots
count
of
fan
work in
letters
there.
that he wrote, there was
Yeah,
probably quite a bit of words that
yeah,
he published in a letter. Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
But I want to say you're absolutely the most published man alive. We were talking about it on the channel when we talked before, and I think you're just one of those. You're probably superhuman. You have a little bit of superpower in you as well, being able to write fast. And what book are you on now? It's over 400. You got 425 books.
I think it's book number 421, but I've honestly lost count. And then there's the other thing. How do you count collaborations? How do you count something that you helped with? Do you count it
Yeah,
as a book or a third of a book or an eighth of a book? I don't know. So I gave up. I've given up
credited
counting years
published
ago.
works, man.
Yeah.
Credited
I and
published works. It's probably like a billion. Let's go.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's 1,000 something magazine articles, and then there's all the stuff I've ghostwritten or rescued.
Yeah,
There's tons of stuff. Radio scripts.
been writing
Yeah.
your whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've
You,
been writing your whole life.
it's something I
At this
do.
point, you should be writing your own checks.
I should.
I'd
And I
like to
should
see
have
that.
millions to write them with.
We all
The
want
world is
millions.
so unfair. It's full of incel, hetero, whatever that is.
Yeah, you're an inso.
Yeah.
What is it?
I
Yeah,
don't
Ed.
know.
Ed,
But how come
stop
I'm
being a Heswinomem, okay?
okay? Yeah. When can I start being rich? And by the way, I'd like to be beautiful too.
Okay, well, we can arrange that. I think if you have enough money, you can just buy. You can get
And
the.
there we go again. It comes
Yeah,
back
you
to
can just buy
money.
whatever you want. Anything you think is beautiful, you can have it attached
If
or
I
to your
didn't have
body or
this
have whatever you hate
addiction to
removed.
food, and I didn't have to spend so much money on feeding myself. Oh, and sending the rest of it to the tax man. That's the other thing. I should be living in Caymans or Turks or Caicos or
That would
some
make
other
me
tax.
happy. I'd
Yeah.
love to see you guys get what you deserve for your dedication as medium. And so that's what it's about. And there's lots of other people who feel the same way. And we appreciate you, and we're behind
Aw.
you. The internet doesn't make it. It makes things more convenient, but life isn't always convenient for everybody. And us older guys that grew up reading your work, you're my childhood writing hero, man. It's absolutely amazing to get this, even get this opportunity to talk with you. But you know, to get to be inspired by your work and get to work with you, so it's amazing. And I'd like to talk with these other guys who feel the same way and see what we can do and get some campaigns going. We're pretty dedicated on the Hayward Saints 8 comic project. We're going to be relaunching soon, and we got a new artist coming on, and so we're very excited about that. Um, and then we'll work. I already have a contract out, and he's considering it. We're going to finish that up, and then I would like to build platform and work with Ed, get him some artwork for some of his legacy projects. He has some stuff that he's written that he would like to publish personally, and we can get some of these projects out, and you can support him and get his passionate, heartfelt work that's not touched by anybody. That's just him, full expression directly from the creator to the fan. And we cut out all of this middle bullshit. We don't have to deal with corporate, pencil pushers telling us what to do and scrambling our work, right, Ed? Coming in and chopping things all to bits and throwing. I mean, it's part of the process, but I think it's nice just to have raw Ed Greenwood. Just have some raw Ed Greenwood. And
Most people probably prefer
until we feel it
Ed
inside
Greenwood.
of us. Until we feel it deep inside of us. So yeah, we want to get a little bit of that going for everybody who's subject to this. All of the still living legends that help create this industry. We would like to see what we can do about getting them some compensation for their time. And so I want to share this here too as well. This was our cover photo, and so nothing essentially is meant by this other than it made me sad to see that there was no character here. Okay, so this panel, it's fine. I don't care who's there playing Dungeons and Dragons, because I've played with all kinds of dudes and all kinds of people play. My wife plays, and I play with my kids, and it's for everybody. But I was watching this panel, and there was nobody rolling dice, and this was a celebration that was going on. What kind of celebration is this? It's like showing up to a party and nobody brought the Bacardi. You know what I'm saying? Like I showed up and everybody's theory crafting about Dungeons and Dragons. Like, I already know how to play Dungeons and Dragons. Right? If somebody want to, and so we have this here. I said, I thought this was a celebration. Anyone going to roll for initiative? Or are we theory crafting now? And you can see as they're reading this exchange here, especially this young lady, it's B Zelda. I don't want to be incorrect. I want to be politically correct in my, and so she's looking at the chat, and I think she probably would have strangled me on the spot. When I was brought up, I had character and was able to roll with things, and it's all right to accept criticism, even lighthearted. This was even lighthearted criticism at the end here. But they said they just finished a game. They have another one coming up in 40 minutes, and we'd already went through an hour of Dungeons and Dragons theory crafting by this point. I'd been watching. And I said, well, that's good to hear. I thought the ghost of Gary was going to rise up and eat our souls. So, just lighthearted kind of criticism and razzing. I wasn't trying to, obviously not trying to attack anyone. If anything, it was a suggestion to that somebody should roll some dice. I mean, this is a Dungeons and Dragons celebration. This should be just playing. To each their own. It's all right to talk about it, I suppose. But the thing was, the subject for the hour, Ed, was these two people who have no history in the game, telling people how to play the new iteration of Dungeons and Dragons and explaining a new direction for this medium. And it's what it is. I guess to each their own. But it just felt like. That it was very badly received, people can't take any criticism today. Everybody's offended by everything. I mean, you can see the expression of it looked like she wanted to kill me. What do we have here? Let's go to the chat a little bit. In extra order, I do have one thing I want to point out. Ernie has never piloted the Twitter account. Oh, so that was incorrect. I thought that Ernie was on the... Okay, so I'll go back and fix that. I'll go ahead and go back and fix that on the social media. Sorry about that. I understood that he was he's working over there with you guys, but he's not the lead on the Twitter account. Okay. So it was you. Yeah, I mean, this is new to me. I just heard a rumor about this this side of it, and I just followed you guys tonight on Twitter. And I understand that you guys restarted. You had to revamp the Twitter account because of considerable harassment when you guys originally opened. I'm not sure what the reason is for that. It's completely inexcusable, but I don't understand what people's motivation would be for TSR as a symbol of fantasy in my mind. I grew up reading TSR novels. This is where Dungeons and Dragons came from. I have no idea why people would make a coordinated attack on a Twitter account that's dedicated to it, and essentially dedicated to fantasy medium, gaming medium, and the fans. This is something that should be celebrated, and people should feel happy that it exists, and not try to destroy it. So there's a lot of mysteries in society, really. Let's see what we got here. It's all good. I'd be happy to answer any questions later. Won't hijack Ed's show. Appreciate it. Well, this is all of our show. We would actually like to have you come in if you'd like. I would be happy to drop you the link on Twitter if you'd like to come in and talk with Ed. And we'd like to hear your side of what happened with the Twitter account. Would be fantastic. I obviously botched the information. I heard a rumor, and I heard that you guys restarted the Twitter, and so that's why I didn't talk too much about it. I just know that that you guys had to restart it. So it would be great if you'd like the link. I'll just send it to you on Twitter, and you guys can come in. Let me get that out to you.
And yeah, I missed all that completely.
Yeah, I just saw it today.
All I got was that there were somehow 2 TSRs, and it was like, huh?
Yeah, let me get the link right to you on the account on Twitter is where I'm going to send it. So let me get the link here. You'll have you come in and tell us your account of it, because people need to have this information. I mean, this is something that people are interested in. There we go. I sent the StreamYard over to you. So if you have time. Hobbies.com. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Well, I just sent the link to the Twitter account. So, well, there you go. All right. I just sent the link to the Twitter account so you can come in and talk with us now live if you'd like. We'll bring you right in, and you can just voice it and talk and tell everybody. Whoever comes to watch the stream can hear it straight from your mouth that you guys had to make a new Twitter account because it was bombarded. That's what I heard. I'm not sure if that's incorrect. So, I mean, at this point, we're just trying to piece it. This is a mystery. We're kind of like Scooby-Doo and Shaggy, you and me. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm more the Shaggy. You're probably the brains of the operation. I'm the hungry one, is what I'm thinking.
I don't know. I'm Shaggy.
All right, cool. Hey, thanks, Michael. I appreciate it. Yeah, we'd like to get the word straight from the horse's mouth if we can. And we've got a TSR hobbies. We want to get correct information to people, you know what I mean? But we're essentially feeling this out and investigating it together is what's great. Like we want, so we want to find out. Yeah, we want all the information. And then we want to piece this together if we can. It could be like what the ninth wonder of the world. It could be like this unexplained anomaly that that nobody can figure out. But I think if we apply ourselves, we could probably figure out exactly where all this weird shit's coming from and why people are trying to destroy essentially a source of imagination and take people's life accomplishments away. I think this is definitely not the way. I don't agree with that at all. I believe in tradition and legacy. I think that we wouldn't be here. I definitely wouldn't be here writing if it wasn't for you guys. I'm a big lover of fantasy. You know what I mean? If we didn't have that to inspire our imaginations when we were young children, it wouldn't have allowed me to develop and absorb pop culture with this writing in my head and these tastes in my head, and then help me develop into the person that I am today, as well as create the expressions that I want to create. So, so it comes full circle. You know what I mean? I have this saying that I say around my close friends. I try not to say it I try not to have too much independent thought publicly, but with my friends privately, I say that that the chain of tradition and legacy must never be broken. We just add links to it. And I think that there's a lot of people, it's been very popular for people to want to snap that chain, and they think they have to take that link of chain into another direction. But this isn't true. We need to appreciate every piece, every link in this chain as what it is at its time, and then build upon it and
You
accept
need to
what's
know
already been
where
done.
you came from.
Absolutely. We wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't that. And even if you're doing it as a business, you wouldn't even realize that this type of business and market existed if it wasn't for people like Ed Greenwood, and people like Tim Kask, and people like James Ward, and people like Gary Gygax, who created it all. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, we wouldn't be here doing this if we weren't inspired by it and wanted to contribute to it. I want to continue. I want to add my own link to the chain. I don't want to break the chain and run with it like a, like a psychopath. I don't need to destroy anything so that I can create. I think it's important to appreciate those kind of things. That's why we respect our elders. That's why we're brought up to do those kind of things, or else we get a whooping.
Yeah.
That
I
was the
used to,
old.
I used to go to Gen
Can't even get a
Cons and
whooping anymore.
yeah, I used to
Can't even
find
get a good
Dave
whooping.
Arneson, and I used to sit down and talk to Dave Arneson. He was usually running a little booth, like a single table booth, selling stuff, and I would sit down and ask him questions. I'd ask him questions. So, what made you think of the frogs in Blackmore? Okay, how did you use them? Stuff like that, because he was still alive then, so I could ask him. I could find out. You know, do it with all of us.
That's a
Talk
good
to us.
point. Don't worry.
Talk to
Yeah,
us
don't
before we're gone.
talk to them and appreciate them before they're gone.
Yeah,
For Christ's
yeah.
sake, there's a man sitting right here who has been making fantasy his entire life. He's a national treasure, and he's not even American. I mean, come on now. This guy is. I mean, this guy is. He's right here, and he's very easily approachable. Talk to the guy. See what it's about. Don't assume and use outrage culture. I want to bring in. You said your name was Michael. How you doing?
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Let's see. Let me sorry, I'm getting all the feedback. Let me grab my I'm doing great. I just need to turn off the I'm getting, the triple broadcast. It's coming through the headphones and now it's getting the feedback. Let me
You're getting 3 times the fun. Is what you're saying.
So you have to turn off Twitter.
Fantastic. Oh, the reason why is because you probably have YouTube open as well as the StreamYard.
Yeah, I'm watching the show while I'm on the show, so now
you
it's
can
the
do
triple
that.
show.
Yeah, it's a triple show. Wow, fantastic, man.
Yeah.
I would say that you probably want to mute one of them. Oh, he just popped out for a second. He'll be back in. I was going to tell him he just needs to mute the YouTube version of it because that will give you the double echo. And it's a delay, too, so it's really disorienting.
Yeah.
It's not even like triple the show. It's like 2 shows going on at different time periods, like different realities. Like you're trying to absorb them at the same time, and shit gets all discombobulated. Yeah, it's bad. He just popped out for a second. He's gonna try to fix it.
It's the mirror universe.
Yeah. I
the
can't even
negative
imagine.
Zone.
You're doing good to handle one of me. Can you imagine like alternate reality word nerd as well in here? I mean, nobody would get a word in.
Yeah.
We're going to wait for Michael to come back. That was a terrible introduction. I was totally caught off guard. I brought him in, and I wanted to make sure I got his name right. It looks like it's Michael KH. And so I'm just meeting him for the first time now. So he's coming back in. All right.
They all look so young.
There we are.
How'd it go? Good. All you have to do is mute you can still watch the show and catch the chat. You just have to mute the YouTube version when you come in off the StreamYard, and you can just watch from the StreamYard here is better. You can also open up comments over on the right for StreamYard. You click on that, and it'll show all the comments that are coming from YouTube. So you said your name was Michael. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Yes, I am Michael Hovermail. I'm the CCO and PRO for TSR, and have been there since day one of the situation that you were alluding to. Wasn't prepared to be on your show, but was
That's okay.
thoroughly enjoying seeing you, Ed, and listening to you there, Word Nerd. So,
hey, thank you.
Hey,
my friends call me Mr. Word Nerd, so
Mr. Word Nerd.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You can call me Ryan. Or your Word Nerd Highness is also what I go by. I mean, that's unofficial.
So,
I'm
TSR
not going to hold you
hobbies.
to it.
There is a TSR again. What is TSR going to release?
Well, stuff that I can't tell you until you sign an NDA, and then I can tell
you. Okay.
Sorry.
How soon
it's true.
will we see
we
the
do.
first TSR release?
We do have upcoming product release videos that are, I will say, in the can right now. So we are editing them. So we do have some stuff that's coming up. It will be coming out this quarter, the announcements, and then the timeline to have the finished products. At the very least, we'll probably have a alpha or a beta for TSRCon in July. And
fantastic.
So, and as I've been listening, you're similar to where I'm at. I unplug as well. So if you get to unplug and get out on the farm like I do, I'll go out here and do the chickens, and it's like, yeah. So I'm glad that you were not around for the stuff that's not worth.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's hard because that's exactly what we were talking about, Michael. It's hard. It's a hard to approach subject, and it's been created that way. Whereas, and it's a divisive statement to say that some people are not treating you correctly, and we need to be more aware of people's life choices. Nobody's been, nobody cared about life choices before this. Everybody else ever just handled their own life choices. So why is it something that, and I think that it's all summed up by I think Dave Chappelle said it that how involved do I have to be in your life? You know what I mean? Like how involved do I have to be in your life choices for us to be able to coexist? And I think that was a beautiful statement that he made. I may have botched a couple of the words, but the gist of it was essentially like, how much do you want me to bend over backwards so that everybody feels safe and everybody feels comfortable? It was never like that before. People just would live their lives, and I hope that at some point, that this fad will pass and we'll be able to get back to that. But let's talk about something more important, which is at the moment, now that we have you here, Michael, it's fantastic to have you. I want to talk about what happened with the Twitter account, and we definitely want to dig in and talk about what TSR has planned for the future. But first, why don't you tell us about what happened with the Twitter account when you first launched?
Well, what happened is that I was serving as the administrator for the official community Discord for TSR at the time, and observing what was going on on the Twitter accounts. Now, I have a long history. My background in managing online social communities dates all the way back to dial-up with BBSs. I loved hearing, we all know what it was like before the internet. Yes, I remember when it was like to, it's like, oh, you want to know the answer to something? Well, let's see here. It's in here somewhere. Let's go ahead and look it up. Yeah. Before there was no internet back then. We had the great books of the Western world by, anyhow, I digress a bit. So, we were watching this happen, and the tweets that came out started to become extremely odd, to the point of that there were tweets that there were conspiracy theories that WotC was out to get them, and that there was stuff going on. So I knew I've been doing this for a long time, since dial-up with BBSs and Meridian 59 by 3DO, Ultima Online, Asheron's Call, World of Warcraft, all the way up until Mists of Pandaria. I've managed one of the largest horde guilds. I've been doing this a long time, and I also have an IT background. That I understood what was happening is either their accounts had been compromised, or their accounts had been compromised from within. So they were either compromised from without, or they're compromised from within. When I reached out to Justin and spoke to him about it, then they brought me on as their new public relations officer. And at the time I took over, kept the individual that had been managing the accounts under the assumption that it was an outside influence that had infiltrated. And
which
we
is
were
very
going to-
interesting. Holy smokes. Now,
Yeah.
what this means, I watched Joe Rogan. I don't know if anybody else watches it, but he posted recently on Instagram that it was something crazy, like 90th percentile of like Christian online sites are actually controlled by these out of the country troll centers, where they have call centers where people just create propaganda and feed divisive statements into the internet. I might be off subject a little bit here, but it sounds like this outside source getting a hold of an account and posting things that are
Well, what I mean by an outside source specifically is quite literally an outside source. So let's say that you go to Starbucks and you've got your laptop, and someone looks over your shoulder and gets your passwords or whatever, and then that person logs into your accounts remotely. That's an outside infiltration.
So that somebody stole and commandeered an account.
Exactly. That and not even commandeered, but what happens is that if someone obtains your login information, they can log in from, and if you don't have any safeguards in place, they log in, they do things, they post things, and then, so it isn't that they really assume control of it. They can even just go on and post stuff and walk away.
And then get out.
Exactly.
It happens on my other social media.
It's a remote login from a different location, and that was what we believed. What it did turn out to be, unfortunately, though, that it was compromising from within, and so that individual was also in charge of the entire IT department. They were head of the IT department, and they had the accounts for the website. Everything's, of course, non-local, because we're in different states. Everything is networked. Everything's on Google Drives. Everything is out there. So when all of this went down, and TSR lost it all, really, we were. And you see this before. If you have a rogue IT engineer and they get let go or whatever happens, they burn the server to the ground before they leave. And unfortunately, that was the situation that we found ourselves in. There are a couple of press releases. That was our only recourse, because at the same time, there were irreconcilable creative differences going on with the client of Wonderfield. So that was another thing that had to be dealt with, but there was no way to deal with it besides these press releases. So now there's 2 press releases that have been released. There was as you were saying, tweets that so what happened, this person was ghostwriting for Justin Lanasa and Ernie Gygax. They were ghostwriting for other accounts, and they were anything that they were given to tweet, they were changing or modifying or completely fabricating. And that was the situation. So
wow.
Yeah, we found out. And so what happens is that on top of all of that, so these horrible tweets go out. They're horrible. They're heinous. They do not reflect in any way, shape, or form TSR, myself, Ernie, Justin. None of it. They are none. Yeah, no, not at all. But as a result of that, there were companies that decided to take action based on those tweets. And they took their actions, and then everybody else sort of jumped on board. And as Neon at Clownfish TV, he's covered the situation quite well. It's dogpiling.
Good. I like Neon. I like his posts as well. Like he's good.
Yeah. Very interestingly, a woman I respect and know on Twitter said, "Have we considered that maybe the new TSR is a mimic?"
Yeah.
That was the entire tweet, and I read the tweet. And I thought, yeah.
Well, I haven't.
Yeah, it's a D&D joke, but yeah, what if it's somebody else?
I was thinking
Wow.
pretty much the same thing as Ed, so I'm right like Ed is. I was thinking like pod people, but yeah, it's essentially the same thing. Like,
Yeah, and see, and that was part of the confusion, because while we were trying to obtain the accounts, we were trying to get the website back. We're also trying to transfer the website over to Wonderfield. So that's happening at the same time that this other person was still trying to retain the accounts. And in today's age, what happens is you no longer have a person that you could call on the phone and say, hey, this is broken, we need it fixed. So you email the holder of the URL, and then the ISP will get back to you in however many days, weeks, months it takes. Twitter will get back to you whenever, and not to say that it's, but it is the customer service that we have today.
now, is this like this representative that you mentioned that was altering these tweets? Do you suspect that it was essentially like a sabotage for TSR, or was this just their personal beliefs were changing the tweets and then it caused a problem? Like,
I don't know
where
what
you
the
can't really.
There's no we don't know what the motivations were exactly. We know that all of as stated we stated it in the press release that the tweets are invalid. Hey, Tim Kask is here.
Hey Tim, why don't you come in?
Hi, Mr.
I'll send you
Kask.
the link on Facebook.
Yeah.
You can come in and talk with us. It'd be good to have you.
That'd be amazing. And so what had happened was that they, as we were saying, they were changing it. They were doing these terrible tweets, and we couldn't get control over it because, like I said, you can't call people and say, hey, shut this guy down, shut this guy out. We're not in a situation where we can walk over to their desk and grab the mouse out of their hand. It's you're stuck. And so once we finally did regain control, enough that the accounts were shut down, in the press release, Ernie released a statement directly to the trans community, because it was the trans community that was directly affected and insulted by this other person. And he states that, this person does not represent us. They were not talking about us. Everyone is welcome. And that really is the whole thing. And so here we are back again today, where we've been picking up the pieces. We've got our website back up. We've got our new About Us back up. We have, just as you were saying, we are embracing artistic freedom, creative freedom, and along with that, the play as you wish, which is the hashtag, and that is our motto: play as you wish.
I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that's right along the lines where we want to be, to make that one statement and let people just play how they wish. I'm going to go ahead and bring Tim in. He's here now.
Awesome.
I'll introduce Tim Kask. Come in and talk with us this evening.
It's going to be a party. I didn't even know this is
one statement. Let people just play how they wish. I'm going to go ahead and bring Tim in. He's here now.
Awesome.
I'll introduce Tim Kask. Come in and talk with us this
It's going to
evening.
be a party.
We get an echo. How's it going, Tim?
When I saw,
Oh, I see what it is. Sorry, Tim. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Listen, you got YouTube open, and it's playing.
yeah,
off
let
of the
me
YouTube, not
let me close whatever the hell's doing
Sorry,
this.
Tim. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Listen, you got YouTube open.
What now?
Perfect. You're
that
good.
better?
Perfect.
Oh, okay. Well,
Tim, what an honor to have you here, buddy.
Well, thanks. I was getting ready to do a curmudgeon, and then I saw this post where I got tagged. I said, "Oh hell, I'll be too late. They've already said all the bad or good things about me, and I'll miss them all." But, yeah,
We can repeat them.
I don't feel in reference to what you said in your post, I don't feel that it's been a personal Tim Kask attack. I think we've all been attacked.
That's
all
right.
of us that wrote stuff back then. Number one, I'm going to give the old excuse: we're products of our upbringing and our generation. And number two, 50 years is a prism or a magnifier that is just not fair without some explanation. I've been harping on the English teachers who used to pick apart all the novels and make them no fun to read.
Yep.
Because they were looking for the hidden symbolism. Well, I feel the same. I feel like I'm that novelist being picked apart, and we didn't need it. We didn't mean any of that shit. Oh,
That's
do you
right.
swear on this site?
Yeah, 100%. You can swear harder than that if you want, Mr. Kask.
No, I generally don't, except when I get excited.
I'm like a sailor. I'm just toning it back right now.
Well, I was a sailor, so watch out.
All right, so you know the lingo. Good.
We'll have a cursing contest when you're at GaryCon, but common obscenities, no, it's got to be like, may the fleas of 1,000 camels and fist your mother's armpits. It's got to be creative cursing. But anyway, I feel like we're being held up unfairly. To my knowledge, I never once ever heard Gary make a racist comment. Now,
That's right.
He did believe that men were physically superior to women. I don't believe he ever thought that they were mentally superior to women. Okay. And yeah, he did talk
this
about
can be proven by genetics. I mean, this is a scientific fact. I mean, maybe there are cases that are extremes, but it's what it is. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's the way the species has evolved. Men are bigger for whatever reason. I'm not going into any of that crap.
That's right. We're not scientists.
Earlier.
But Ed, did you ever once think that you were writing about this evil clan of orcs and they're actually a Black Street gang?
Yeah, it doesn't even make any sense.
Never.
Yeah, I saw that.
Never.
As unreal.
What I was doing was waiting for someone at TSR to tell me about orc culture. So I knew as a dungeon master, okay, will they be around a fire? What do they live in? It was like we were exploring a new species.
Well,
and
we
were so far past human racism. We were into, okay, so these beholders, what's their society like? This is really cool. And that's what you used to send me, these little green postcards with Celtic knotwork around them, because that's how you told me something was accepted or rejected for the magazine. And you'd write on it. You'd write on it, oh, let's have more about such and such. So we were just exploring. Okay, I'll give you more such and such. He wants more such and such. Let's do it.
Exactly, because we were all lifting and borrowing and inspiring each other. And I'm gonna on my
you inspired all of us, Tim. I have a huge collection of Dragon magazine. I'm an incredible. I'm blown away. I'm such a big fan. Thank you so much for your dedication. That you guys created I was talking with Ed about it. You and Ed were contributors to an entire culture of gaming. Ed's like waving his hands, no, but we all know that no means maybe. So
no. Tim here.
Oh, was he?
He is part of the original.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I'm very familiar with Tim. Yeah, he helped play test with Gary Gygaxgate himself. So
yeah,
before Dungeons and Dragons was anything.
I was a kid up in Canada mailing stuff to this magazine. These were grown men who were running the hobby I loved.
All I remember is the name, and then the first time I see you, you got a beard down to your belly button. that was a real hard adjustment.
I was in the bathroom. It grew.
Yeah, I guess. But somebody must have made a potion that worked. But that was a real mental jar for me the first time I saw a picture of you. I go, no, that's not that dude. No.
Well, when I was writing for Dragon, when you were editor, I was clean shaven. I had those plastic non-breakable glasses.
At what, 15?
Yeah. I was 14 or 15 years old. I was the complete nerd. I was skinny as a rail. I had no beard, no sideburns, nothing. I was a little kid.
Well,
fantastic.
Lots of people that ended up with their stuff in the magazine were young, never been published. I was just looking for people that had good ideas, because we all back then so much with no printed dungeons and adventures and modules and crap. We were all desperate for stealing ideas. Now, later tonight, I started to say earlier, I'm going to review a book by Kerry Burgoyne. Now, you may know who Kerry is. He's been in the hobby a long, long time. This book is wonderful. Why? Because there's at least 4 things I'm going to lift out of there. Four ideas so cool that, oh yeah, I can see using those. Oh yeah. And that in the old school is the highest praise there was.
Yeah, like quoting someone or impersonating someone.
Well,
it was a compliment.
Stealing ideas. And putting them in your game, whether you disguise them well enough or not, didn't matter. It was a new problem to throw at your players.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's exactly what we would do.
Now, I do admit to a bias in that I've hardly ever played the game, but I've DM'd the shit out of it, and I wrote a bunch of it. But as
Nice.
on the other side of the screen, I don't have that kind of experience. I think if you start writing this stuff, you can't. I've done it in charity games. I did it for Doug Ray several times. I've done it in charity games at Gary Con, and it's fun and I enjoy it, but I never had that luxury. I was always running it and then writing it. And that's how I learned to run for huge groups. I was the only DM, and when 16 guys, most of whom are at least as big as you, want to play, okay.
Yeah,
We'll figure it out.
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds
We'll figure it
beautiful.
out, you know.
We,
I hear you there.
I want to get into what happened with your Twitter account, Tim. I saw it today and I was upset and I
I do
commented
not
on it.
have a Twitter account.
Or I mean, your Facebook account. Apologies.
What happened today on my Facebook account?
Well, there was a bunch of comments on your post. We were talking about it earlier. We'd like to get it from the horse's mouth. What happened with this Twitter, this Facebook mob of people that wanted to convince everybody that you gentlemen were sexist when you created Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, if it's the one that started out with, okay, WotC's going to put out a new edition, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the one.
I meant what I said, but people decided to twist it. I'm delighted if there's going to be a new edition coming out. This one that everybody's having their shorts in a bunch over is the biggest selling edition ever. There's more people playing than ever. I don't care, as one of those hallowed five from the early days. I don't care that it's not the same game. I'd be disappointed if it was, because it's not a board game.
That's right.
Yeah.
We were certainly guiding the evolution those 5 years that I was there, because we didn't want it spinning off into something that we, in our hubris, and the developers and the designers and the creators in their vision didn't want it to go certain places. And I've talked about many of those places many times on other sites, and don't need to bore you with that now. But we were definitely caretakers.
Oh, you never
We wanted our game, because we were very proprietary in that regard. We wanted our game to be played well, which some people thought meant right. And it used to be so frustrating. Every book we put out in the front, we said, these are not written in stone. Change
They're
what you
guidelines.
want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're guidelines.
Yeah, we were talking about that before, Tim, how it was. I used to love just reading the books, not just playing the game. I used to love reading the books at night just because I loved the author's insight. And you guys that was a common theme that you would reiterate in the source books, that, hey, this is a guideline. Use your imagination and take this any direction you want. Anything you can perceive or think of can be added into a game that has essentially no or blurred boundaries. So
right.
That was one thing we appreciate about it. It's great thing.
The only boundaries in role playing are what the DM can handle. That's and those are very nebulous, amorphous, and ever changing.
And we all know players like to push that border too. So.
And that's fine. If the players at my table didn't push me, they wouldn't be playing. They wouldn't be involved. Even with what I do today, which is so different in format and style from what I used to do, they still gotta, if they're not asking questions, then we're just going to sit there and stare at each other for 10 minutes. I don't care. When the clock chimes, I get to get up and go do whatever I'm going to go do next. I didn't pay money to be there. And in the old school, the thing that bugs the shit out of me the most, I don't like the concept of skills and abilities. Case in point, when I was running a lot of tests at a local game store, I had a wide range of players, including 2 that were later edition, who sat on their asses like bumps on the log, expecting me to tell them what their skills and abilities I just revealed to them. Never checking the walls, never contributing in the old school of gathering information. What's it look like? Are the stones regular? Are they irregular?
Yeah.
I'm going to check.
Yep.
The concept of a designated checker just went right
Mhm.
over the top. Because with all those things, number one, the gameplay speeds up because the DM knows who's responsible for that. As long as they're murmuring every now and again, knowing that they're still into the game, you know whether or not they found anything. You know whether or not to say, okay, roll a die.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times in those kinds of circumstances, I roll the dice. And if the result doesn't happen, they never even knew that they walked by something that they didn't find, that didn't hurt them.
Yeah, because they're not saying anything, and so it's just like, well, you're not paying attention, so your character ain't paying
They
attention.
run back out and trigger it.
Yeah.
But then again, there's the gaming style thing.
Yes.
I mean, I've sat at tables where, oh, well, you mean there's nothing in this library about the king's bastard son? Not that you can find. Okay, I'm going to go over here and seduce this courtier and get her to tell me. Okay, it's a role-playing game.
I think
Role-play it.
King Toad incorporated Joe Ball. I know he's a very talented artist. I just wanted to cut in, and he mentions here SJW's one is destroy things that others love. Really has nothing to do with diversity. And I guess like to each their own, and people don't want to call other people out on their beliefs. This feeling though is something that this statement that he makes, something we've seen over. We were talking about it earlier on the episode. It's something that we've seen.
Just a talking golf glove in this this window.
Oh, that's me. Yeah, that's my camera off. I'm just and my low. Yeah, sorry.
It's been perplexing me.
I wasn't ready when this came in. I just kind of came in, and so so I'm going incognito because the horror would be. You'd have to make your fear check upon gazing upon me. So
I was looking at that radioactive.
Throw that on anybody.
Radioactive smiling glove thing, Lord Word Nerd. I'm going. Wait a minute. And if you don't mind, I'll cut in real quick because before we get a little bit too further down the rabbit hole. When we were discussing
that's my specialty is rabbit holes.
Yeah, me too. Oh yeah.
Speaking about watership down. You guys don't mind if I go to the gentleman's room, do you?
No.
No.
Go to the rabbit hole.
Yeah, I'm good.
Go ahead.
I'll let you guys handle it. Okay. Try not to tank my channel while I'm gone if you can. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No worries.
Appreciate
I mean, I
can
just, and we can wait, I guess.
Terrible sense of humor. Okay, I'll try to leave my sense of humor on the back of the toilet.
Well, we're gonna sit here and do the Jeopardy song, so you better hurry up and.
Okay, I'll go as fast as I can.
Not too fast.
No.
I don't want you to.
No.
You have the bridge, captains.
Yeah.
Okay?
You got to take a little care.
I watch Jeopardy every night with my wife, and as long as I know I'm getting about 85% of the answers right, I know I haven't started to lose my marbles.
It only works for me if it's
every
Star
time
Trek or
Every time that one really odd one just pops out, she looks over at me like, oh God, another one.
Yep.
And I don't know how it works, but those kind of shows that and Win Ben Stein's Money.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I had a friend that was obsessed with that show, and he made me play against the contestants every time he came over to watch it. And yeah, I do good. I do well at those.
I do if it's some pop culture, if it's Star Trek, and I'm like, yeah,
you Americans,
I got it,
you have television.
Yeah, why you still reading smoke signals in Canada?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Listen to the let's see what First Nations drum sing across there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had to think of what you guys call your Native Americans. You call them First Nations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Anyway, what the hell were we talking about gaming?
We were
there's we were talking about when Lord Word Nerd gets back, but part of it was your post, your Facebook post.
Oh yeah,
so that was one of the main crux
of that.
All I wanted
to tell people was, as the iconic positions that so many people hold me in, and I'm constantly holding on behind me to make sure I don't fall off. I just wanted to say that It's fine. I don't care. I love to see the evolution. And why? Because I like playing what I'm playing.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. It's play
I,
whatever you want.
and so therefore, I don't feel compelled to run out and buy them. I don't feel compelled to knock the previous ones. It's evolution. You know, nature went down a whole bunch of dead ends and blind atoms.
Yeah, it did.
Look at
Let's
all the
try
ones
this
that
one.
didn't work.
That third arm doesn't work out so good.
Well, we're still trying to figure out how the platypus made it through all the changes.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Well, it's because it's multi. It's got milk. It's got eggs. It's got a whole pantry shelf right there.
and it's got poisonous spines in its back legs.
Yeah, spines and
the whole array. It
Mhm.
almost sounds like an over hyped up character beginning in an adventure.
He's
Yeah,
got the
yeah.
grab bag of everything that was
Yeah,
left.
yeah.
It's got
It's the character
points
that wants to multi-class in everything, like a
Yeah, I know.
fighter,
I'm
wizard,
talking
bard,
about
thief.
that again tonight too, about my power gaming.
Oh my
You
gosh!
know,
Yeah.
I never said it wasn't a good deal. I just said I never saw the appeal of it because we always started over and retired the guy, but built a keep. And there were occasions when developments in the kingdom happened, and we rode forth with our troops from our keeps and met on the field of chainmail battles. There were occasions when that happened, but otherwise those characters were semi-retired, and we were now playing the other 4th, 5th, 6th levels that we were building up so that we would eventually do that also. And that's why we always had 4 or 5 or 6 in the stable. And we didn't have a manic depressive incident if somebody died.
Yeah.
You know,
They seemed to be sedated and carried out in a wheelchair. You know?
well, that's something we were talking about before too, Tim. I feel the same way, and it was something I was brought up with was having character. It's about having, you know, you have a character obviously, but having character is something that's that seems to be less prominent as far as a trait with people. Having characters, being able to accept those kind of things, that sometimes your character dies, and make it fun, enjoy it, and realize that it's part of the game, that we don't have to be shielded from uncomfortable situations all the time. Being put in uncomfortable situations makes us a human being. That's what makes you into a human being, a functioning human being.
Well, you're a lot kinder about it. I would simply say having common sense and having common sense and being able to separate your real world and your fantasy world. I just can't understand how people, you know, and God knows I've had enough years to hear enough anecdotal stories about relationships that were destroyed, relationships that were formed. Good God, you're going to break up a relationship because your other sex, your partner. I almost made a mistake.
Almost made a mistake and burned the whole shit down.
Your partner.
Oh, no. Your partner. Your life partner.
Can we just establish it right now that we don't care who you fuck or who you are? I mean, come on, guys. Let's just get over it, all right?
God, I got so sidetracked, I forgot where I was going with that.
Your partner.
I almost stepped on that teller mine.
Yeah. Not that one.
Social minds.
So anyway, your real life partner, and you're going to break up with a real life partner because what your pretend person, what your partner's pretend person did.
It's unreal. These people's beefies,
you know,
so fragile.
Well, it's pretend.
Just by existing. You're
I don't know.
An affront to their entire being. How could? Doesn't make any sense.
I don't know who coined the phrase "the willing suspension of disbelief," but that's the first thing that we all have to have, and theirs would appear to be flawed.
I would say so. I think you're putting it nicely. I think we're both sugarcoating this nicely.
Well,
great.
I get enough kickback and feedback for, you know,
you better play cool. That's right, Tim.
I got castigated for calling what I now call the new interpretationist I referred to them as the woke
NIs,
crowd,
or the
and I got
meanies.
castigated for that. So I now call them the new interpretationists.
If you say it twice, they're the ninis.
Neat.
I'm
No,
not
well, yeah,
even
well,
going there.
no, you're gonna go Monty Python, and I'm gonna be like, nee, no.
Oh, I'm not going there.
Okay.
Yeah,
not going there.
yeah, no, we've gone down 5 rabbit holes. When we
Well,
want to go back, let me
there
know.
have
Well,
been pe-
I
there been
have been
people-
at a convention where somebody said, "Trigger warning:
hmm
there is violence in this game.
Well,
There is
and-
conflict in this game." It's like, well, duh, it's D&D.
Did you know they
Yeah,
came out with a
we kill
non-combat
things
version?
and we take their stuff. I mean, come on, that's the core of the game. Kill
Well,
things
yeah.
and take their stuff.
That's
Cut them
right.
open and see if they swallowed a pearl. I mean, you know.
That's the whole fun of it, because the things that hopefully you don't do in real life. But you know, we don't want to turn any homicidal viewers away. We want everybody to feel welcome, but hopefully it's something that you don't do in real life. We want to be all inclusive here and make sure that homicidal maniacs don't feel welcome on our channel. That would
I'm
be
not seeing an upside
a
to
fucking
this.
tragedy.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
might want to rethink that, because I once
Yeah.
ran a game for an entire table full of ex-cons.
Oh, okay.
Who
So they had
learned to
some
play-
experience. They played a little bit of real life
Who
D&D.
learned to play in the joint.
hmm
Whoa.
Now they took that run the rules any way you want to
Yeah.
a whole new level.
I think so. That
Yeah.
must have been an
Oh.
interesting game.
It was
That would be
very, very interesting.
So, like, if you ask them if they made their con save, like, do they call their lawyer or?
No, but when I told the guy who I had assigned to be the paladin that no, he could not pull out the orc's eyes on the tip of his knife to get him to talk, because that wasn't what paladins did, we literally had a stare down standing up across from each other at the table.
oh wow,
Wow, that must have been intense.
that's awesome.
And so, at what point did you guys? There's one point where they fill up their flask with toilet wine, and then you guys continue on with the adventure.
No, it's just, they just had I was making them play. Apparently, I will only speculate. Apparently, their campaign was full of a lot of stuff that some people would feel uncomfortable playing.
Mhm.
I've known of campaigns here in the city that
I mean, that's half the fun of it. That's like something you get into a game like that, and it was like you said, where it pushes you as a DM. So your imagination was probably turned on as much as theirs was. You know what I mean? So that's definitely interesting. What it's all about is getting in with a crowd. We've all had colorful games like that. Maybe not to that extreme, Tim. That's pretty intense, but it's
Jolly.
that's part of it.
I'm gonna plug Jolly Blackburn here. Jolly's a great guy, and the Knights of the Dinner Table. If you don't want to buy the comics every month, buy the bundles of trouble, and he deals with a lot of this stuff in such a humorous way. We got a lot of weird people that play, and your weird is my cool.
Yeah.
So already we have content. We have areas for potential contention. There's one you don't want to say 3 times.
I can relate. I'm always the
Potential
weirdest person in
contention.
the room. So
That sounds like a good module. Potential contention.
Yeah.
The adventures
name
of
of my
potential
next bar band.
contention.
Yeah, but if it's
And
only
Captain
potential, you keep
Eye-Stabby.
making crappy die rolls, nothing will happen.
Yep.
Nothing will happen. So you want to watch that anyway. The fact that they're looking through that little thing, and now I'm going to go off on this one tonight, a la Andy, the old Andy Rooney stuff that he did at the end of 60 Minutes. Demons are just misunderstood.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting article.
Why? Oh, Jesus! The meaning of the word, because demons with an AE were originally just spirits, according to the Greeks, that hung around. They weren't bad and they weren't good.
Mhm.
And then eventually the Catholic Church turned demons into malicious spirits, and Then pretty soon they were coming up from the pits of,
Yeah, it's
Come on.
unreal. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it has nothing to do with lore when people do that. People with who don't have any imagination, trying to pitch terrible ideas and succeeding, and it's happening throughout entertainment. And I have a theory. I was talking with Ed about it, and I can't prove it yet. I think we're going to be able to sleuth this thing together. Okay.
Okay, I'm listening.
Okay, we might be able to sleuth this thing together if we get all of our imaginations together. And create a nexus. We create a nexus mind together.
Yeah, that might be possible. But before we, sorry, Lord Wardner, I eventually my thread gets to the point where it's like I need to grab a hold of what we talked about and finish it before. So
feel free.
Could we?
Do you have something to add in real quick? Oh,
well, yeah. Well, the thing is that when we were talking about your post, Mr. Kask, and that's about
Tim.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate that. We were talking about your post in which you clearly state that you're being accused of being something that, blank means blank means blank means blank. And to bring Ed up to speed, since he's up there with the, Jordan Peterson and the smoke signals and the wargs and stuff, and not on the internet.
Yeah, and that Luke Guru, man, you got to watch out for that Luke Guru up there in them northern woods.
Oh, yeah.
That was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That's how you describe Canada.
Yeah. Well, I know. I love it. It's great. No, what happened is that there is an article called Dungeons and Dragons and Diversity. And in this article, there are clearly stated portions which say that, and I'm not sure if you can bring it up here, Lord Word Nerd, but
you can call me
the article.
Ryan. Okay.
The article, the Dungeons and Diversity article. They clearly state that throughout the 50-year history of Dungeons and Dragons, that orcs and drow have been treated very similarly to real-world ethnic minorities.
Bullshit.
This is what they say. This is exactly what they say.
I'm aware that those claims are being made.
Yeah, but this is where things are stemming from, because on top of that, there is also a disclaimer that they have decided to place upon all original Dungeons and Dragons materials that says, paraphrasing, that these materials may contain all the ethnicity, racism, blah, 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 that was totally rampant in America back then and all this stuff. So people take this as their gospel.
Video, I've seen this.
Is this article. It right here, Michael?
Right, and
I've seen that.
Right,
and I addressed that in my last curmudgeon last week.
Yeah, and this
go to what happens is in the cellar on YouTube and follow Tim's channel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
absolutely, I've been there. Unfortunately, what has happened is that because they've decided to make these changes in the game, and of course it's their game to make these changes, and I'm certainly not going to debate the values or what's going on, but what happens is that now you've created two tribes. You've tribalized and polarized the players, because you have players that now want to play a game in which orcs and drow are treated as player characters. They are transferred from the monster class to the player character class. And then there's people that want to play a game where they go, no, Tolkien orcs. These are orcs. They're murderous, rampageous orcs.
They're fodder for our sharpened blade.
They're fodder for this kind of stuff. And what happens is then you end up with the tribalization of the people that want to play one game and another game. And then when you directly associate ethnic minorities with a game element, what you've done there is that you have created a situation in which now you're tying people's real world feelings, real world issues, and real world problems into a game in where they are trying to role play. And so now what happens is this.
What's escapism if we're going to apply our real lives to it? You know what I mean? That's the whole
the thing is this. What happens is, so we use this term in NLP. There's modeling, there's there's yourself, and then your character. You have it in acting. Obviously, I'm an actor, amateur actor of theater, right? I've played villains, and I'm not a villain. I'm not going to go out and do villain things. But when you play a villain, you try to portray this villain. Well,
why not?
When you're role playing,
to try it, let loose a little.
Well, But
Go ahead.
and where I'm going with this is that what it directly taps into is people's feelings on real world issues. Now, I am completely and utterly anti-prejudice. Within 25 years plus of the Society for Creative Anachronism, where I was a constable and helped run the Kingdom Constabulary, and where I stood my ground against at least, there was a dozen of these people with no hair that like to go out and beat up other people that are not white.
Skinheads.
Yeah, skinheads. I get into political correctness a little bit since it's part of my job, but
That's right, we can
skinheads.
talk
So
about
these
it. Like,
skinheads
oh,
show
yeah.
up at the gate, and I stand there and I go, no, you're not going to come in here. You're not going to come into this event because they think we're all, whatever's Fruit Loops, because that's what they called us since we're dressed like D'Artagnan. My point being, not to blow my own horn at who I am, but that's who I am. That's the kind of man I am. So when I try to make these arguments and get people to understand who they're dealing with, when I say, look, you are creating a problem when you associate someone's real world righteous fury against prejudice. You can have righteous fury against prejudice and say prejudice is not correct. You should not be prejudiced. This is stupid. We should all be equal and be treated equally.
But this
And
is a fantasy game, and when you're applying real minorities or real social problems to a fantasy character that was make-believe in the first place, these are just monsters that were created for our entertainment.
Well,
they can be anything you want, but they were never meant to, even making a character, it's unhealthy. Even a character that looks exactly like you, that's in a fantasy world, to apply your own real life problems to it and apply yourself to it isn't that even too far? Like, that's further than the game ever wanted you to be. You can be immersed without it being like unhealthy. It's almost unhealthy if it gets to a point where it was like an obsession, where you felt like you were actually your character, you dressed as your character in real life. We've seen these kind of things. It might be even a complex where someone takes an unhealthy direction with role playing. It was just meant to be escapism, and then leave it and then go back to your normal life. You know what I mean? This is entertainment. People get inspired, which is a good thing, but that's even unhealthy. Now we're talking about taking social issues and then applying them to monsters that were designed for players to interact with, but nothing more than that. They're essentially just figments of our imagination.
A lot of what it is,
you know what I mean? And
there's no more. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say that what's being presented here in this article, I'm reading it right here, is that they're saying that orcs and drow, being of two prime examples, have been characterized as monstrous and evil, using descriptions that are painfully reminiscent of how real-world ethnic groups have been and continue to be denigrated. This is a very damaging statement as far as our entertainment and how we think about escapism. You're trying to bring social politics into a game that's here for our entertainment, and that has been essentially the most free-form imaginative game ever created. Has the least amount of parameters as far as its rule set. Rule set is designed to be very loose so that you can play outside of it and use your imagination. And then they use this as an avenue to slip social politics into our escapism, and then use it as a shield. This plays into what I was talking about before, that it's more dangerous than it appears. It's more than just making a ridiculous statement about the characters. Is that when we get to this point, and people are willing to accept that and celebrate that these fake characters, these orcs and drow, are getting their rights, and people take that as a victory, then this can be used as a weapon. It can be used as a social weapon and a badge for entitlement. And so that it puts people on their heel, because you need to act a certain way and accept this person. You need to accept this person and treat them with more respect even than you would any other person, because they because they are different, and you need to accept that. And none of it makes sense. That doesn't make sense. And it's worse when it's applied to a corporation. That was the whole idea of this stream, was that we want to bring awareness to this because we have guys that are still alive, like Tim Kask and Ed Greenwood, who dedicated their entire lives to this culture. And then there's people who are working for Hasbro and creating content and creating articles like this, and are using these social politics as a badge and as a weapon against other professionals. They use it to cancel other professionals. Once they broad brush you and paint you as a sexist because you are not sensitive enough to their sexual orientation, even though it differs nothing from a heterosexual male's sexual orientation, except you're attracted to a different person. We all understand that, you know what I mean? But if people are willing to accept an article like this about orcs and drow and be accepting of their rights and their fictional creatures, then you just might be stupid enough to believe that this corporation cares about creativity and cares about tradition and legacy. And they don't. They care about money. They want to establish canon. And, this is the theory we were talking about before. I think they want to surround themselves with. Okay.
Sorry. We just need to jump in for a sec. I think Tim had his hand up before mine.
Two things.
Oh, sorry. I was sharing screen. I didn't see the hand. Sorry about that. No, just yell at me.
Two things before I go do mine. I'm now a little late. Two things. Number one, the fact that I have been backhandedly painted as somehow being racist flies in the face of the fact that go look at my picture on my Facebook homepage. Over half of my descendants are not white.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And I saw those pictures. We've been friends for a while now, Tim, and people are ridiculous.
Well, indeed they are. Now, the other thing, there have been several good novels over the last 6 or 8 years, or 10. When you get my age, they slur together. But if we go with the Appendix N concept, there have been several good novels that have humanized orcs, dwarves, not just the orcs themselves series, but I believe he's a German author. I read another one where they ride these big ass pig boars things and they patrol the border. I can't remember the name of it, but they have humanized them. They're a squad and they converse with each other. So these types of books are part of what's fueling some of this. Let's look at them again. And they're good books. But I think we have to look at that and realize that's some of where this is coming from.
Yeah, I think you're talking about Stan Nichols, maybe?
Yeah, he does the Orc series. Then there's another one. They're called the Gray something or others.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, love them.
The ones that ride the big pigs. There have been oh Jesus, he's gonna kill me. The one where the series where the dungeon effectively comes to life, and you then go off to the next Hans. Oh geez, he's a friend. You essentially go on in the next 6 books, all because the dungeon came to life. And oh geez, oh God, I hope I think
this
of it.
This is what happens when you get old.
Yeah, that too.
Keep going, Tim.
Plus, I'm in the state of mind that I get myself into before I do a curmudgeon. Not necessarily the most astute state of mind I could be in for being here.
Tim, you're all set. We kind of ambushed you and made you come in here anyway. So
well, Hans, Cummins, great book. His protagonists are a minotaur and an elf, and and they have humanized him, and so that is feeding, I think, some of this renewed thinking about what is a monster. And so I think us old guys that have wrote a lot of this stuff then need to recognize that this is an Appendix N type thing. The source material is changing. Now, I'm not going to change what I write or how I wrote my adventures or whatever like that. I don't care. but I don't need, I don't think we need to criticize it. I think we need to recognize it. By the same token, a lot of those people in this are ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's
Yeah, and
absolutely
that's,
right.
And that's exactly so. My real point being is that, as in just exactly like you said there, it's the re-examination of what constitutes a monster. Can you humanize it? Like I love Stan Nichols' books about orcs; they're humanized and all that kind of stuff. The problem is the polarization between the gamers, and this is something that I've been in the middle of with helping Justin and Ernie bring back TSR because of all of this stuff that has happened and all the people that I'm talking to. And the problem is this: you got
We
these
need a
camps, these
sanctuary.
people.
We need you.
Well, I appreciate
need
that
your
very
money.
much. So I'm really looking forward to the stuff that's coming out. But the point is that, we're all gamers. So why in the world are we trying to freaking hate on each other? Because, you're racist because you play that, or you're bad because you play that. Why? Because they've tapped into the real righteous fury of prejudice by connecting these fictional creatures to an ethnic minority. That's the link. When you say that this orc is similar, this is a fallacy. This is a logical fallacy. You can look it up on the internet. This does not mean that a property of A and a property of B, therefore A and B are the same because they both have X. If you guys,
That's
they
right.
can
It's
go
crazy.
and read this stuff. And the problem is that of course they're mad about it because it's like they think that we're evil. They think that we're the bad guys because they think that we're racist because we want to have evil orcs. And it's like, no, we're just trying to play a game because I don't want to have to go to bed and cry myself to sleep because I was sad because I murdered a whole bunch of orcs and think about their families or something. It's like, no,
Crazy people have no respect for the
they're villains in a game.
Real world.
They're
ridiculous.
Villains in a game. Yeah, and it's not. But
you're
not,
absolutely right. We were talking.
And the point being is that not to denigrate them at all. It's not the fact that they are bad people. They're good people because they're trying to go against
knots over whether or not a paladin ought to kill baby orcs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they take it too far.
Yeah.
They take it way too far. And the thing is,
Gary was once quoted as saying, "Nits make lice."
Mm-hmm.
That saying goes back to the 16th century and has been changed in its meaning over those centuries, back from when people had lice.
Mm-hmm.
You killed the nits because
yeah.
they lice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are any of us perfect? No. Is Gary a perfect human being? No.
Mm-hmm.
Were any of us overt racist? No. Were any of us overt specious? No. We drew upon the prevailing fantasy, folklore, myth, appendix N, and spun something out of that, like cotton candy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we spun all those things together and made this big fluffy thing that now people want to poke holes in. Well, I say, if you can do better, go make your own cotton candy.
Yeah. Let's see what you can
write. Can we take a break for a moment and just go to the chat and read some of the comments to everything that we've been speaking about so far? Panboy Lando Soy Child Dong Lover says, "Trigger warning, ha ha ha."
Yeah, with that name, I can see why.
That's quite
that's a trigger warning all in itself.
If you're gonna say trigger,
by
you gotta
design,
have Han Solo,
my friend.
not Chewbacca.
By design, Pan's the soldier. It's good man.
Well, I'm just trigger warning. There was something on Facebook this week about some kind of bullshit about what roll 20 or critical role, and they have trigger warnings. A bunch of voice actors have trigger warnings. Nobody's playing with them but them. Who are they triggering? Each other?
When I was growing up, if you had a trigger warning, that was about you get a slap. You had to toughen up a little bit.
When you're young, it's like you don't talk about my mom. I mean, sure, that's triggering when you're a kid, but as an adult, it's like you can say what you want. I don't care. I'm just going to stand there.
Well,
now, are we talking about someone's mom, or are we talking about like your mama jokes?
No.
I was those are a thing
about triggers.
Well, your mama jokes. Nobody's talking. Nobody thinks you're talking about their real mother. Come on.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a fictional mom. Hopefully, nobody ties anybody's real mother to those, because then we're going to get a trigger warning.
Then you're going to
get murders. Yeah, a lot of murders and assaults.
If they actually thought those your mama jokes were specific and actually about their mother, I mean, It would be like Armageddon. Colonel Morg, Jolly Rules.
Well, and
Colonel Morg says,
there's the thing about the orc cultures that we gave them in their very, very limited backgrounds early on, like in first edition. All we did was cull and steal and lift and blend what the myths and the fairy tales were saying. Gary really disliked a lot of Tolkien. He hated the Tolkien elves and dwarves because they were not the elves and dwarves.
And that's the spirit of creativity, I think. Yeah, he did his own iteration of it. You guys did a beautiful job, Tim.
Well, and
we appreciate you, man. The chat appreciates you. The chat's going nuts about it. They have so much to say. I'm just gonna jam through these real quick and get them. They want to speak to you. They're happy to see you guys and to hear from you. You know what I mean? That's what this is about.
We're not dead yet, are we, Ed?
You're not dead yet.
Not quite.
No, we're gonna go out with a fucking bang. Is what we're gonna do, boys. That's what we're gonna do, boys. We're gonna go out with a fucking bang.
I can still manage that. Trigger warning.
Trigger warning.
Notice. I can get a bang going. Okay. I need a little heads up.
Funny.
Tim, is that what we're calling it?
Got it, buddy.
Heads up.
Well, I don't do spontaneous bangs anymore. So. Any kind, anywhere you guys want to take that, I don't give a shit. That's
I think that's a great new phrase. Spontaneous bang warning. I like that.
Spontaneous bang warning.
I see a product there.
Well, they're gonna make their head explode. You need to get a meme or an emoji of people's head exploding. And that's the warning. Your head might explode. Warning. And we kind of hope it does. But we don't put that up.
I know, right? It's so frustrating. I'm gonna go through fast. Let's get it, boys. The only good orc is a dead orc is a better phrase. That's right, Colonel Morg. Absolutely correct. TSR Hobbies official says play tunnels and trolls if you want to play monsters. Okay, Greg Colton says, I don't think this is the hill. I don't think this is the hill new TSR wants to die on. The whole orcs are racist was an article written by something who didn't play D&D, and many of the most liberal D&D kids don't believe that. So that was his statement. Colonel Morg says again.
No, we don't have time to debate that next.
Yeah, that's like
midnight.
That's another episode.
That's another show.
Yeah, that's an entire other show. We could go into that. Come back and we'll do it next time. Space orcs is greater than D&D orcs. Let's debate that one next. Oh man, these guys want to use up. These guys want to make some content. Let's do it. Let's get fired up and let's back these guys up. These fellas should be sitting on a throne. They shouldn't have to come on here and voice their opinion at this point. They've already dedicated their entire lives and proven that they have imaginations like Arnold Schwarzenegger. So I mean, why should we do anything less than honor that?
Arnold
so
yeah.
I like
Stallone. Stallone's got a great imagination.
Or Stallone,
Rocky, and all that. So I could do
like
that.
Like an imagination is a muscle equivalent, like world-class bodybuilder brains going on.
We'll flex our heads.
Flex your heads.
No,
that's
no,
right.
Now I'm turning into those.
Ed and I are doing it right now, but only certain people know how to do it.
Yeah, but it's like from the pilot of Star Trek, where you get the huge brain head thing because you just like.
Nah, that guy looks like he's got a serious disease going on. No thanks.
Something.
Yeah, it's look like something's wrong, but you're just tapping into the force. Just
well,
takes
you
a
gotta
lot
wonder how was he born?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
so sorry. I'm
we've
so
already
sorry.
figured out that Klingons were not all really lumpy when they're born, because we've seen Worf's kid grow up and get more and more knotted and lumpy as he ages.
Mm-hmm.
What, it was just rough on the way out, you mean?
Well, you got to think about that, you know. Think about birthing something with horns. Well, you don't want to breach birth on that one.
Yeah, you definitely want that one to come out right. I agree with you. I agree with you, brother. Otis Hill says, exactly. I don't run games to be a proxy for real world challenges. I run fantasy games that mirror medieval times with medieval challenges layered with magic and mysticism. That's right. It's about imagination. We need to be having fun and focus on that. TSR Hobbies. fallen asleep. It was probably at some point while I was talking. Chuck Keyworth, I don't want to play reality, the fantasy game. That's absolutely correct. Yeah,
We're playing papers and paychecks.
Yes,
Paychecks.
I immediately
Yes.
I put a copy of it within arm's reach.
Let's play Tax
I
Prep by
wrote a
Mattel.
forward. I wrote the forward, I think, to Papers and Paychecks.
Colonel Morg says, Greg Colton better at orc representation. I hope you mean the world will be green.
You rolled a 1. You're being audited.
Oh,
Yeah, critical fail on your taxes. They're going to garnish your wages. Here we go.
Yeah.
TSR Hobbies with the dice. That's right.
Roll
That's
the
where
one.
it's at. The exciting dice roll. Colonel Morg says again, Chaos Space Marine books also portray the characters as more human and arguably humanize them. But all that did was make me buy more Chaos Space Marines.
See, it was all just a merchandising plot.
Mm-hmm.
All
They said, "Oh,
diamonds
let's
from
make it more
TSR
sympathetic,
Hobbies.
they'll buy more. And they did. You did. You fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
Fish.
I'm getting old. It's getting
Ladies
late.
and gentlemen, all diamonds from TSR Hobbies official. Otis Hill, do you think it began with Twilight and vampires being glittery? Full disclosure, I'm a fan of Twilight, but I do enjoy the classic evil vampire too. Yeah, we like, I think any vampire is acceptable, although
this brings up a very important point. You should be able to have both without the need to denigrate the other one.
That's right.
There should be
Ed.
another interpretation. You could say, "Oh, I like that. I don't like that." For you,
I like
Not
the
badmouth
vampires in
somebody.
True Blood.
yeah.
my wife brought me to the
True Blood was
Twilight
awesome.
movies and we watched them. And I got to say, on the third one, as sparkly as those vampires were, they were grabbing and physically ripping the heads off each other at the end of it. I mean, there was some brutality there. So, I mean, yeah, there was definitely a lot of
I was too young to watch that.
Well, no, you're totally right, though, Ed. I mean, Ed really nailed it on the
Yeah, you
head,
grew
and
up
that's
in
exactly
Canada.
what I'm hoping that anybody gets out of this. It's like nobody here is trying to be bad or evil or whatever. We're not, and it's
But I
not
didn't divorce
about
my
that.
wife because she took me to the movie because it
like
was
to
too
play
much. I
that.
felt like parts of it were too mushy. You know what I mean? It goes both ways. You know what I mean?
Too
You gotta,
mushy.
yeah. I was like, oh, you're taking me to a chick
Oh,
flick.
nicely put. Oh, nice. Nice score there.
Good stuff.
All right. Well, gentlemen, I have to depart because I've got a curmudgeon to do myself and probably won't get to bed till 2 or 2:30.
Tim, it was an absolute honor to have
Thank
you
you,
here.
Tim.
Will you please come back? We're going to do some more content. I was talking with Ed about it. We want to continue to share with the fans, and we're going to do structured shows tonight. Wasn't very prepared. We're just kind of diving into it.
Don't post it in general. Send me a PM and tell me when you're going to do it. And I tape curmudgeon on Friday night, but if I'd been here at the beginning, it'd been no problem. But I missed the first hour. But I can do the first hour with the court without conflicting too badly with my own schedule.
Well, fuck yeah, Tim.
Guy
It's a
lives
date,
in
then let's do it.
Thailand, so I got to get it to him by a certain time, or it waits a few hours.
Got it.
So, all right, now I got to figure out how the hell to get out of this.
All right, Tim, it was so good to have you. Thank you.
Yeah, great.
You're
Great to meet
welcome. I just X'd out on StreamYard.
Or you just go to your basement and pull the circuit breaker for the panel for the house.
Ed, stop.
No, then I'd lose my script for tonight's show.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
All
No, you
right.
need to hydrate the computer. Pour the water in the. The hamsters
you guys
inside the computer need water.
You know?
No,
my God.
actually, I always told my clients, I said, all electronics are actually magical devices. They run on magic smoke. If the magic smoke escapes, the devices don't work anymore.
Okay.
So if your stuff burns up and it starts smoking, it's like, yeah, magic smoke escaped, no longer works.
Got it.
Yeah.
We're going to finish the chat. I'm going to get through these. Panboy says, go out with a bang. Trigger warning. Colonel Morg also had a Panboy warning in front of the trigger warning. Oh, you guys, come on now. Come on now. Let's keep it.
Flex our heads, trigger warning?
Flex our heads, trigger warning. guys are there's trigger warnings or triggering trigger warnings.
And that's
Hail
the
at Morg.
problem. That's
Good
the
stuff,
boy
guys.
who
Hail
cried
Tim
wolf
Kest.
problem. If you warn everything,
Yeah,
people
if
stop
you
paying
have a
attention to
trigger
the warnings.
warning, the trigger warnings will trigger warnings. Then it'll be a cascade of triggering, which is pretty much what our internet is now. That's like a perfect definition. It's like a plethora of trigger warnings that have triggered other trigger warnings. Could be.
It could be, but one of the things I do want to point out is that, as we were saying, it's all up to what you're going to have at your table. What kind of game you're going to have, just like Ed was saying. And the thing is that the other part of the coin is that role-playing games are now being used as serious tools for people, that right there is, valid and important and actually very, very beneficial to a lot of people. And I think that it's important to continue that track and that goal, for professionals to use it in a professional way in order to do that. So if you have, and on the other side of the part of that coin is that if you have a game now, like I have a game that I play in, and there are topics that are off the shelf. There's no sex in the game. Violence is curbed because people don't like to get too gory because they don't like gore and stuff like that. And that's fine. It's like, that's cool. No big deal. We just don't have it. It's like, all right, we just don't have it. And I think that's a part of just being courteous, being polite. And so if you are a player that things bother you, you should be. Go ahead. Yeah. Say, hey, these things bother me. I hate whatever, spiders or eyeballs or whatever, and people can be accommodating or people cannot be accommodating. That's completely up to them, and then you can decide to play with them or not play with them. It's completely up to them. That's what we're trying to say, is that,
and the same thing too,
we're not
it goes
advocating
both ways. Like for games, like everybody gets to choose what they want. Let's say there's a game where they like lots of violence, where like I'm going in like Gladius or like Maximus from Gladiator, and I want to go in with 2 swords and I want to decimate everything that I see and destroy the Caesar.
Giblify everything with stuff flying all over the place. Sure, yeah.
The blood of the land will be
but the
my
problem that we face
drink.
is with the tribalizing and the villainizing of the other people that are wanting to play the games, and then they say, well, you're a bad person for allowing it. You're allowing that bad behavior. And it's like, we're not,
like real
we're
life.
just not saying anything about the behavior. We're
like, dude,
totally
I'm a model citizen in real life. I've never even had a traffic violation. And I'm turning 40 this year. Like, I'm a model citizen, but I play D&D.
Well, get with the program, Ryan.
I need some crime in my life. That's why I was hoping you guys were gonna. I was hoping that you guys were gonna be able to bring that out of me and show me a good time. But up until this point, I'm just like a model citizen.
Come up to Canada. We'll
living the American dream.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Well, if things go well, we're gonna get that box of Cumans, and I'll come up and I'll bring a bottle. And we'll have a drink, and then we'll smoke cigars. We'll kick our feet up. Mike's gonna come with us too, and Tim.
I know where y'all need to be. Y'all, this all needs to go down Lake Geneva, July 1st through the 3rd, TSR Con. You're invited. You're invited, and I mean it. I'm gonna need to reach out to you, Ed, and we're doing actual paper invitations. I need to get a hold of Tim. I mean, it's gonna be it's going down. It's going down. It's gonna be great. We've got
we'll have a drink, and I like the idea we're talking about going down the lake. We need to get a boat. That's why we need to take this on the open sea. You see, that's what we need to do.
Oh my God!
We need to.
You don't know how much
Full sails
Love Boat
ahead,
I've been watching.
Captain.
Oh my goodness!
Well, Lake Geneva.
Man the cannons.
Lake Geneva has the steamer, the mail steamer.
Oh yeah.
Still. Oh yeah, they have a paddle boat steamer that delivers the mail.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I didn't know that yet.
Oh yeah. Because it used to be the playground of the Vanderbilts and so on. There are cottages on Lake Geneva that have 200 rooms, and they still have the mail delivered to their docks. Their post boxes are on their docks, and you can ride on the. Oh, never mind. But that's another show.
Oh, TSR has their own boat. Woo! Let's do it. Let's get aboard the
that's
TSR.
That's Justin on the TSR Hobbies official account. Yep. And yeah, absolutely. So no joke. TSR Con, you guys totally.
Well, I don't know if I can't leave my wife and B,
No, she's
at
invited
the
too.
moment, I can. No, she's 86. She doesn't leave the bedroom. She'll be
Okay.
87 in a week. So but I can't get across the border at the moment. The border's
That's
closed.
true. I was thinking about that too. So
Yeah.
we'll just virtual. I'll be because it's going to be. I'll be broadcasting it. I'll be all over the medias,
Even
and
if
we'll
things
definitely give you
happen
a
with
call.
life when we can't make it, Mike, we're with you there in spirit, man. We appreciate that
Yeah.
invite.
You could be there,
Maybe
right?
there'll be a great point. Oh, I could.
Lord
Yeah,
Word
well,
Nerd.
a
Yeah,
little
so you
ways
can
away.
be
I'm
Ed's
from a cold
hands
weather state.
at the con, and Ed can give you commands over the internet, and you then can be his hands
Brian,
and play the game.
Buy this.
Yeah, but I'd much
Brian,
rather
buy
have
that.
his hand up the
Brian,
back of my
get
shirt,
that
working
back
like
to
a puppet in person.
Oh,
Dude,
that'd
that'd
be
be awesome.
uncomfortable. No. Trigger warning. Oh,
Trigger warning.
Oh, now we're getting into Jim Henson puppetry here. What's going
yeah.
on?
Well, then no subject is off limits here. I mean, this is full unadulterated Word Nerd and Friends channel, man. That's how we roll.
Because I love. Sorry.
Nobody gets triggered on this channel.
You're gonna get me going, Ed.
No. Okay. Yes. Yeah. It is
Well, it's
getting
good. This has been fun.
We're getting
This
silly.
is great. I feel hopeful for the future of
Getting silly.
TSR publishing. Mike, you are fucking great, man.
Oh,
Good
thank you.
stuff.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. We absolutely need it because it's like we were talking about, man. You know, people need to loosen up a little bit and just realize that everything is not a vessel for you to.
He can loosen up when the first year's
blow your
products
top.
all come out. And he
That's
can go,
that'd be great.
That's
And I
where
was
we're
gonna
at.
say too,
We're
I
bringing-
help too if I can. I don't know what kind of staff you guys have for artists. I hope you would have a lot of support for what you're doing in your publishing. But I work with some guys who have who have a lot of experience in comics. We work out of a studio called Cornerstone Grove Studios. Jesse Hansen owns it. He's a former Marvel inker. For 20 years now, he's been doing professional work. He was published in Crack Magazine. He's had a film adaptation from a comic property he was working on. He's a file wizard. His day job, he worked in printing, and so he's great with finished book files and editing and working with things. And he knows a lot of guys in the industry. We know some guys who have significant credits. We have a release coming out with the guys who work at Bullet Maker. Panboy does a show with Get Hands Up Bullet Makers coming out.
Yeah, we just helped them blow up Bullet Maker. We are Hail the War Campaign.
Hail War Campaign, absolutely, brother.
That.
Yeah, no, these guys are fantastic. They've been my friends for a while now, and been great to me. And they're a lot of fun. They do 2 shows a week like clockwork. They've already published 2 graphic novels in the series called Vestige 1 and 2, and Bullet Maker is the 3rd installment.
And I'm talking to Ed Greenwood, and I'm just like, I'm not gonna fanboy. I'm not gonna fanboy, but I'm trying. I'm like, holding on. No fanboying. Don't grab the books.
Right? Well, that's how I was at first too. Like Ed's one of my childhood hero writers, but then when you talk with him, you just realize he's a real dude. Like it's not.
Love to hear
he's
that.
good shit.
Let's go back to your childhood.
But these guys are very talented. They're great, man, and they care about this work too. But we're publishing. We've got some preview pages coming out with them, and they're released Sunday. They're launching Bullet Maker.
Yeah, we were just blowing that up. I made a wanted poster.
Oh, good. Yeah,
so
I want that to do well.
Reprobates at War Campaign.
Absolutely, these guys work hard. Yeah, they have. This is a point. They work hard and they care about tradition and legacy and the history of entertainment, and they're very aware of it. Very level-headed dudes. Love these guys. So yeah, I appreciate that, man. I want that graphic novel to do really well. I want that to explode. Get that in everybody's hands. I want TSR to do very well. TSR is essentially a national icon as far as fantasy and science fiction as well. They did science fiction as well, published, and so we want that to continue. We want that legacy.
And we almost did Proton Fire. It was there, and then it was gone.
But we get between the resources, quality writing and quality content, and the guys over at Cornerstone too, just a lot. Like the 3 stories that I have coming out in Bullet Maker are 3 completely different teams, totaling credits from Heavy Metal Magazine. One of the colorists that I hired did the Iron Maiden issue and the Iron Maiden tribute and the Megadeth tribute in Heavy Metal Magazine. They have Marvel, Disney credits, Image. I mean, we've got some guys that have done a lot of professional work in their hardcore indie now, and they want to work. So if there's anything we can do to help you on the art side, I'll get in contact with you. And when you have publication releases and things, it's nice to be able to have guys on on call for freelance so that you can get artwork if you need quickly. So and I've already talked to Jesse Hansen about it before we even did the stream. I talked with him about it. So yeah, absolutely. So I'll do anything I can to support you, sir.
I dropped the emails. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. That's going to be amazing. I'm looking forward to that. And I dropped the emails in the chat, and we'll definitely, I'm looking forward to it. Hope it's so. Absolutely.
Absolutely, man. We're so glad that you're here, and that TSR still exists, and that we were able to do the show tonight. Thank you so much. We're going to call it an evening. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to have a lot more content. We're going to have all of these guys back. I'm going to be in contact with them this week, and we'll plan some more content and talk about it. We want to raise awareness to this, and we're very excited about the new publications from TSR Publishing. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in to Gygaxgate. And
I really appreciate that, Lord Word Nerd. And just to say one more time that, we really appreciate it. I really appreciate it because it is absolutely something that needs to be discussed. This needs to be drug out into the open and have the light of day shown on it for what it is and what's going on in a cool-headed, level-headed manner. I started a Facebook group about real-world gaming issues, specifically for that task, to say this is a place for us to discuss real world issues. So we're not talking about how many gold pieces the orc has. That's for other groups. This group is to talk about what's going on, because it's heartbreaking. It's been very heartbreaking to see everybody trying to hate each other and make it something real and have real hatred over a game. We just want to play a game. Everybody want to play a game. And yeah, we're totally inclusive. Abso-freaking-lutely. We're totally non-prejudiced. Abso-freaking-lutely. But that doesn't go into the game. The game is the game. So if you have a game where you've got slaves and they're being slaved, and slaves are being slaved. It must be getting late for me too.
Wow,
but you know what I
slaves
mean?
are being slaved?
Part of the narrative is you got slaves and they're being slaved on by the slavers that are slaving the slaves, and they're slaved by the slavers that are slaving them.
Were they slavering slavers?
They were slavering slavers, exactly.
The slavering slavers slaved them.
But the point being is that you have heinous, horrible things that are going on and being perpetrated by whomever, by whatever. And that's part of the story. It's part of the narrative. And it doesn't mean that I harbor slavery or think slavery is a good idea because I wrote a story that has slavery in it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's the whole point we're trying to make to everybody. And also the fact that the tweets weren't us. That person is no longer with us. And, for what it's worth, that kind of stuff goes on when you've got people that go rogue. They're your IT people. They're whoever they are. That kind of stuff does happen. Don't take it. It's not real. It's posted online. It's not like somebody was in your face. It's not like any of us were actually saying it to your face. No, that's somebody else saying it. We said somebody else said it. It ain't us. Realize that, anyhow, that's my soapbox.
Yeah,
I'm done. I appreciate
that's
it.
Okay. No,
but I appreciate you.
We're happy to hear from you.
Grabbing a hold, reaching out to Ed. I appreciate you doing this, going out on the front lines and saying, enough is enough.
That I've had enough, man. Absolutely, I've had enough. You think I want these people to attack? It's just a matter of respect.
Yeah, they shouldn't be attacking. It's like, just leave us alone.
Even if you don't like
you play yours.
Yeah, even if you don't like gaming, why would you attack somebody who essentially created a gaming culture? They were there for the very beginning of this.
Real agendas. That's the thing, is that it's a real agenda, because when you say that these creatures are the same as an ethnic minority, that makes it a real agenda. And I tell you, myself,
you can make an argument where there isn't.
If I saw an ethnic minority being mistreated or misrepresented, I'm going to say something. I'm going to jump up. I'm going to say something. I'm going to do something. I'm going to, I don't just stand there and hold my phone up and go, oh, I'm going to put it. No, I jump in. That's me personally. And that's the problem, is that it's tied into that. I don't think that they're really understanding it's a game. because they think it's real, like it's a real representation, because you're representing the real thing in the game, and the game is important. Therefore, it becomes this. It's like taking
And it becomes this
comedics.
vessel to make an argument where there isn't one, too.
Well, because it's like
You know what I
taking
mean? They can
comics out
create
of
their own
context.
argument.
Yeah, if you take a comic,
If you can make
any
fantasy
comic,
arguments, then you can make an argument out of anything. You can just
Right.
use your imagination to make an argument.
right, exactly, and it just goes all out of crazy whack and out of context and it's like, we're not that. So just please understand that we're not that. We're just making games.
Thanks,
we're
fanboy.
just making games. That's a great thing to end it on. We're just making games.
We're
Come
just
and
making
play.
games. We're just
Play
making
the way
books.
you
We're just
want.
making things.
Come and play.
Yeah, we're just making
Thanks,
things.
Ed.
If not, then it's not. But we're just making things. We want to share it. We want our own creative expression as well in our own way. I think it's a free form. We need to have that. Someone made a fake war campaign account and said, but I had that up for a while. I knew it was a fake account. Fanboy was like, it's not real war campaign. Pathetic, Ryan. Need to try harder. Yeah, someone made a fake war campaign account to try and troll the chat. Nice job.
Tell me about it. I've got 3 Twitter accounts that claim to be me. I've got other cyber stalkers that are chasing me around. It's crazy out there.
It's
People
funny.
they
These
think
guys
that
are
they can
fucking
just do
nerds.
that. It's like, okay, let's go back to high school now. And
I know, right? Complete fucking nerds. Come on, you guys. I mean, we're talking about Dungeons and Dragons here, and I'm calling you a fucking nerd. So what's that say about you?
yeah, but I loved listening to you, Ed, because I was just like, Ed, that was me. I was there too. I had the turtle shell glasses and a mullet, and I grew up in a 2-horse town, and boy, yeah, ripped jeans.
You had a 2-horse town? We had to
I know.
borrow horses for no nothing.
Oh, yeah, you got me. You got me on that. No, we had a 2-horse. It was amazing, because the guy that owned everything, his wife had a horse too. So 2 horses.
Oh, and he rode her every night. Oh,
Trigger warning.
oh no, Roy Rogers had a trigger warning.
Oh, Roy Rogers, man, he had some real triggers.
Sorry. Okay, good night, fellas. We're
All
here
right, good night,
week
everyone.
trying to veal.
Until next time, this has been the first edition of Gygaxgate. Good game, everyone.
Thank you.